This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Packers and Lions for sole possession of first place in the NFC North. The game tonight in Green Bay. The Lions have scored at least 20 points in their last 12 games. They could tie the franchise record tonight. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young hopes to play Sunday against the Vikings, coming back from a right ankle sprain. His coach is Frank Reich.
He's done everything he can do to get back here. And he obviously wants to be out there. We want him out there, as long as he's ready to go and play winning football.
Frank Reich. Young missed last week's loss to the Seahawks. The USFL and the XFL plan to merge and start playing next spring. The USFL relaunched in 2022. The XFL relaunched earlier this year. Lightning goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky will likely miss the first 2 months of the new season after back surgery today for a herniated disc. The NASCAR Cup Series All-Star Race will stay at historic North Wilkesboro Speedway next May. This year's event was the first NASCAR race there in 27 years.
How would you love a chance to save some money on car insurance? Geico can help. Switch today and see all the ways you could save with great rates and discounts. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com to get a rate quote and get started seeing how much you could save.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios.
That's right.
Welcome into After Further Review on a Thursday, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Matt is out for today, so I'm here. Musso filling in. Jacob Beck and Paul O'Neill along for the ride as well. We have a jam-packed Thursday show for you here as we continue to get you set for LSU and Ole Miss, and of course the Saints and the Buccaneers. We will head to Oxford later next hour at 4:15 and talk to Neal McCready of Rebel Grove. Get a look on the opposing sideline. A lot to talk about with Ole Miss, and we've covered a lot of it here, whether it's their offensive line struggles. Where is Quinshon Judkins? They've got a lot of issues in the receiving core that we're going to talk about here momentarily as well. And, of course, the New Orleans Saints, the quarterback situation there, the offensive line situation there. Offensive line, big topic of conversation here today, whether it's Ole Miss or the New Orleans Saints. So we'll get to all that. Mike Triplett, of course, at 5:15 to talk Saints in his normal spot. And we have Fantasy Blitz as well with Darin Tietgen, whotostart.net. You'll set your fantasy football lineup, get some personalized advice from Darin and the crew later to end this hour with the Packers and the Lions set to kick off week number 4 in the NFL. But we will start right here where we always start.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
So, with LSU and Ole Miss, I think everyone's taken a lot of different angles in trying to analyze that game so far, whether it's been the trenches, whether it's been the running game. LSU's, Ole Miss, we mentioned it there right off the top. Where's Quinshon Judkins? The most obvious and glaring aspect of the game is the passing game. LSU secondary hasn't been good. We all know that. That's one part of this conversation that I want to have, and we will a little bit later on in the segment, but I guess kind of set that to the side, and we'll come back around to it. Because, again, it's the most obvious. Their LSU secondary has been bad. Ole Miss, on the other hand, with the receiving core, it's been a bit of a mess. So let's dive into it, and here's what I mean and what that means for the game going forward this Saturday at 5 o'clock. Ole Miss, when you looked at what they did in the receiving core this offseason, they went to kind of rebuild it through the transfer portal. And when you think of Ole Miss receivers, really in recent memory, you think of a lot of studs, right? You see a lot of them playing on Sunday. It's just been a position where they have put pro after pro after pro into the NFL. They went to go rebuild it through the transfer portal this year, got some really, really nice players. The problem is those players have been absent. And while they look like they're on the mend and look like they're coming back, and they're hopeful, Ole Miss that is, to have those players give them more this weekend against LSU, I think that's far from a certainty. We'll get a better update on the status of some of these guys we're about to go into from Neal McCready later on. But again, probably far from a certainty when we go through these circumstances that we're about to. So let's start with probably the biggest name Ole Miss garnered this offseason out of the portal, and that was Zakhari Franklin from UTSA. And when you look at Zakhari Franklin, look, this is a real guy, okay? I mean, he came in to kind of be Ole Miss's number one receiver. I get it, it's UTSA, understand all of that. But when you go through and look at his career there, he set records in single season records, I should say, receptions, receiving yards per game, receiving touchdowns. He is a huge weapon. He has played in one game this year, and that was against Alabama last week. He's coming off of surgery in the offseason, a minor procedure, but didn't necessarily bounce back as quickly as they thought. Again, played in a limited role, only the one catch for 16 yards against Alabama. The good news from the Ole Miss perspective is he seems to be coming along nicely. He was running full contact, first team on Tuesday at their practice. It's really the last update we got. Media availability is limited there, obviously, in Oxford with what they can see and all of that. But that's a good sign for them and probably not so good of a sign for LSU. But I do ask the question, okay, he had the offseason procedure, didn't come along as fast as you want, plays limited against Alabama. Yes, he's running first team now here in practice, appears full contact, all of that. But game shape, game speed, all of that coming in against a team like LSU, how much can he actually give? Then there's Trey Harris. Again, out of the transfer portal from Louisiana Tech. Trey Harris got off to an incredible start with Ole Miss. On the year, if you go look at their stats, Trey Harris, 8 receptions, 5 touchdowns. It was kind of like Rashid Shaheed at the beginning of the year for the Saints last year. Every time he touched the ball, it just went for 7. Basically what was happening here. He went down early in the first half against Tulane after actually catching touchdown number 5 early in that game with a knee injury. Missed the Georgia Tech game. Lane Kiffin actually mentioned that he had a surgical procedure on his knee, but he is back. Quick turnaround. Again, minor procedure. Dressed against Alabama. Didn't record a stat in that game. For what it's worth, injury update on Trey Harris. He has been in a no-contact jersey so far this week. Went through drills. Mobility looked good. That's the word out of Oxford. But again, no-contact jersey there for Trey Harris. That's your leading guy, your leading touchdown guy for Ole Miss. Then there's the tight end room. And I know it doesn't necessarily fall under wide receivers, right? But pass catchers, we all know tight ends. Then there's the tight end room for the Rebels and Caden Prescorn. Stop me if you've heard this before. He's coming off surgery. Made his return last week, sparingly against Alabama, 1 catch, 21 yards. This is huge, though, because Michael Trigg, of course, the Ole Miss tight end, just got kicked off the team earlier this week. And Hudson Wolf, another tight end at Ole Miss, is out with a collarbone. So they are extremely thin there. Prescorn is going to have to play in this game. What can they get? Now, he's kind of the prototypical tight end you want. He's not going to be pigeonholed inline blocker. He's not just a pass catcher. He can do both, and another transfer as well, and can do very well. But those 3 guys, while they're back on the field, they're coming back off of surgery still. And they've each, outside of Trey Harris, have only had 1 game under their belt in the season, and it's been in a limited capacity. So what can those guys give? That's a legitimate question when looking at LSU's secondary going up against Ole Miss in their passing game this week. Again, you would look at it on paper and say, well, LSU's secondary has been bad. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, they're going to throw the ball. Jackson Dart, he's capable, all of those things. And it might not be that cut and dry. When you look at what Ole Miss has available that you know they're good to go, you look at Jordan Watkins, leading receiver. He's been very good, 347 yards, over 20 catches, a touchdown. He's been great. Was on the team last year. Put together a nice effort in Baton Rouge, 5 catches for 57 yards, again, in last year's game. You have Dayton Wade, second leading receiver on the team again. Big playability there with Wade, 16 receptions, but over 300 yards on the season. He's averaging about 19 yards per reception there. The thing about those 2 that I think is very interesting is they are undersized. You look at Jordan Watkins, he is 5'11" and sub 200 pounds. You look at Dayton Wade, he is 5'9" and sub 200 pounds. LSU will have a length advantage on the outside in this ballgame. Alexander 6'2". Denver Harris, who's been getting a lot of run out there at the outside corner, 6 feet. Major Burns at the safety spot is 6'2". You have that advantage. Now, LSU has not played a lot of man coverage, obviously, this year. Is this an opportunity in this game if they are limited with Zachary Franklin, they are limited with Trey Harris, they are limited with Caden Prescorn? Is this an opportunity potentially for LSU to play a little bit more man coverage or maybe mix in some combos? That is something I'm extremely interested to watch in this ball game because I think LSU has that size advantage. And look, again, LSU has been mostly zone because they haven't been good enough in man. But what have we heard week after week after week from Brian Kelly and others about a guy like Denver Harris? He's a press man corner. He's a press man corner. Okay, well, is this an opportunity where he's going to have a size advantage potentially on the outside to let him go do something he's a little bit more used to in that instance? Now, the other aspect of this would be the pass rush. And Brian Kelly talked about that a little bit this week throughout his media availability as well, was the lack of pass rush that LSU had against Arkansas in certain situations, and it maybe allowed for some bigger plays and more time in the passing game. That's where the Ole Miss offensive line obviously comes back into this, and are they capable of blocking LSU up front? That's another question. If LSU can get a nice pass rush, they can obviously help out their DBs. You play complementary football there. You like where you go a little bit further along the line. But I'm just curious to see if this is a spot that LSU gets a little bit more creative maybe in how they go to defend, because Ole Miss might not be still quite at full strength in their receiving core. The other part of that, though, is it makes it a really unique challenge for Matt House, because you don't know if Zachary Franklin, for instance, is going to actually be able to be the guy they recruited him out of the transfer portal to be, even though now he's going through, first team reps and all of that stuff. You still just don't know. So you have to kind of prepare for both. It's going to be one of the more interesting game plans to watch at LSU's weakest position. So while it might not be the deciding factor in the ball game, it's definitely the most glaring and obvious one to talk about, and maybe hasn't gotten as much, attention, for lack of a better word, this week. But the way Ole Miss is set up from a receiving standpoint makes it all that interesting. And can it finally take pressure off of Ole Miss's run game for a guy like Quinshon Judkins? Can they get moving in the pass game and that take pressure off of the offensive line and subsequently the run game? It's something to keep an eye on. It'll be very interesting. But mainly, I'm curious about LSU's game plan, because I think with the size they do have on the outside, this could finally be an advantage for them. You didn't have that advantage against Florida State. Against Mississippi State, it just really didn't matter. They couldn't do anything against you, and you raced out to a big lead. Against Arkansas, it was a lot more missed assignments, losing guys, and things of that nature in coverage, whether it was the tight end or whatnot, and having to contain KJ Jefferson. This is different. This is a different setup here in this ball game. At least it appears on paper. So how does LSU kind of match up there? I hesitate to say well, because they just haven't been good. I think intriguingly, LSU matches up against Ole Miss there. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. This is AFR. Musso in for Moscona. The Saints, they play the Bucs this weekend in the Dome. Let's talk a little bit about the latest there with Derek Carr and whatnot. And also, a pretty major player in Alvin Kamara comes back this week. And I feel like we haven't talked about that at all. So I want to talk about that a little bit as well. Again, it's AFR, Musso in for Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics, Louisiana. Stay here.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel, two beautiful hotel properties in Baton Rouge, the Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. And when it comes to hosting your event, both the Watermark and the Renaissance are perfect. The Watermark is a gorgeous, elegant spot in downtown Baton Rouge. That wedding reception, that smaller gathering, that meeting space, they can do it. They've kept so much of the history and tradition of that iconic building while modernizing it. The Gregory is a great restaurant inside of the Watermark as well. And then, of course, the Renaissance Hotel, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. It's more modern. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel property at the Renaissance Hotel, where they have meeting space that can accommodate up to 500 people, 7,000 square foot of meeting space, perfectly located right off of Bluebonnet and I-10. It's the Watermark and the Renaissance Hotels in Baton Rouge.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Week 4 of the NFL season gets kicked off tonight, Thursday Night Football, and the best place to bet on Lions-Packers is the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the promo code Baton Rouge, make a $5 bet on tonight's Thursday Night Football game, and they will give you $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's for new customers. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make tonight, Lions and Packers, a ton more fun. Remember, this is the last NFL game night in September. I mean, it's the last time to take advantage of those great deals. Open up the DraftKings Sportsbook app. There will be not one, but 2 options for every single bettor, new and existing. So check it out right now at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. New customers, use the promo code Baton Rouge. The crown is yours.
21 and older, physically present in Louisiana. Select parishes only. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football. Terms. Licensed partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-426-2537.
If I can play, I'll play. If I physically just can't play, then I can't play. But if I'm out there, that means I'm, there's no fear of re-injury. There's no fear of this. There's no fear of being able to help the football team. And so I'm going to do everything I can to be out there, but never hurt the team at the same time.
New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr yesterday when he met with the media, talking about, of course, the AC joint sprain in his shoulder there. I think most are just expecting Jameis Winston to be the guy for the Saints this weekend. I am in that camp. I don't want to say I'd be surprised if Derek Carr goes out there for reasons that we're about to talk about, but I don't think that he will. And you'll see where we go with that. But for what it's worth, Dennis Allen, when he met with the media yesterday, said kind of the same thing, that look, they're not ruling anything out with Derek Carr.
Nothing has changed. We said we're going to evaluate him throughout the week and see where he's at. He didn't practice today. We'll see where we're at tomorrow with him. But I'm not ruling anything out.
So he's not ruling anything out. You heard Derek Carr say, if I can play, he can play. The question, I think, then becomes, so we'll reference, and we'll talk a lot about this with Mike Triplett, but we'll reference the piece he had at New Orleans.football, right, with Drew Brees, where Drew Brees talked about when he had this injury, it was the only time in his career he went through the entire week without throwing a pass and was ready to go on Sunday for the game. They asked Derek Carr the same thing yesterday. Could he do it? He said yes. Derek Carr said, I could do it. Again, he kind of reiterated his point. He's not going to, put the team in any jeopardy. The question then becomes, this is going to be number 4, Beck. Who has the decision? Is it Derek Carr? Is it Dennis Allen? How much of this is pain tolerance, right? When you look at it, because you already know it's sprained. There's really not much. They're not going to push him in practice. So how much of this is Derek Carr going to Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, and staff and saying, guys, I'm ready to go. I can do this Sunday against the Bucs. Here was Derek Carr answering that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. You got to take into account what you see, and they have to take into account, what I'm able to do, with their eyes. If it was just up to me, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm playing. I'm going out today, and, they'd probably have other words than that. So you got to work together. And DA and I talked, and we're on the same page. Like I said, I'm not going to, if I can't help the football team, I will never do that to our team. This is about winning and it's about the team. But if I feel like I can help us win, I'm confident and, landing on it and all that kind of stuff, then I'll be out.
The end of that's important, and we're going to come back to it. Confident in landing on it, confident in all the pain, tolerance, that stuff. The reason I started this saying, kind of like I wouldn't be surprised or whatnot, y'all, they let Jameis Winston go out there last year with a broken back and play a football game at quarterback. Who's to say they won't let Derek Carr do the same thing if he goes to them and says, yeah, I'm ready to go. We can do this. They literally put a guy out there when he said, I'm ready to go, I can help the team, when he had a broken back. That happened. Now, it only lasted 1 week, and you can also argue it made things worse. You ended up with Andy Dalton, Jameis ends up getting healthy, all that. We don't have to rehash all of that, but you know how that played out. And that's where the second part comes in for Derek Carr, again, where we go back to what he said. If I'm confident in landing on it and things like that, the follow-up that was asked was, how tough of a decision is that for you to make, especially not being out there in practice, throwing a ball around? How do you test the strength? How do you know you're ready to go, and how tough is that decision?
I've taken a lot of pride in, not missing football games no matter what. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but at the same time, looking ahead at how long the season is and all that, you have to be smart. And that's what DA and I talked about. But again, like I said, if I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. So I'm preparing to get ready. I'm preparing to get ready to play, just like Jameis is, just like Taysom. We're all preparing to get ready to do whatever our role is, and hopefully it works out to where I can play.
You have to be smart. There it is. I mean, that's kind of one of those moments where he's probably telling you without telling you that not this week, maybe next, because it is a long season. This is week 4. You're 2-1. Yeah, you should be 3-0. There's really no doubt about that. There's no bunch. You should be 3-0 and looking to get to 4, but instead you're going back home against a division opponent. Got a long way to go though. There's no reason to rush it if he's not 100% and if he doesn't feel comfortable going out there. And I fully expect them, again, if that's the case, to not do it. Just saying, if he shows I can go, I wouldn't be surprised if they did let him go. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow wasn't ready. He He wasn't. He doesn't look like himself out there. That's a really good offense. The Saints haven't even been a really good offense. Do you really want to put a quarterback out there who's not ready and take an offense that hadn't been really good and push them even further towards that end of the spectrum where they're really bad? That's the question. And again, Carr, they're probably telling you without telling you and saying, we're on the same page, DA and him. You have to be smart. It's a long season, all of those things. And that's where most draw the conclusion that, yes, it will be Jameis Winston. Now, that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. Saints, can they be successful and all of that? I mean, sure, of course they can. Jameis has been a starter in the league, and we know all of that, and you'll see Taysom Hill. The question that I'm more intrigued with and concerned with really is what happens if Jameis goes down. Do they just immediately go to Taysom Hill? That's what I would think. But they do have Luton that they brought back, and he's very familiar with the system. But again, do you trust him to just go out there and run it immediately, or do you use him more in an emergency situation? Not necessarily the emergency quarterback, but just an emergency spot. I think that's a valid question because Dennis Allen, when he was asked yesterday about if they ever gave credence to the idea of starting Taysom Hill in this spot, where, look, I know Matt's referenced the situation on this show plenty when Drew Brees went down against the 49ers and Jameis came in, but then they started Taysom the week after, all of that. Dennis Allen finally said no. There wasn't any credence given to that idea, which surprises me for a couple of reasons. I mean, you've been able to win with Taysom Hill at quarterback if you're the New Orleans Saints, but also the mobility that he has given your problems with the offensive line. But they flatly said no to that, which was interesting. The other part of can they perform without Derek Carr is the defense. And that's why the answer is ultimately yes. They went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater that year, filling in for Drew Brees. We just mentioned Taysom Hill and the one loss record he had, filling in for Drew, filling in at quarterback in his time. And it's because of the defense. It's how the Saints have won anyway, in spite of limited offensive production. Really, the last, towards the end of the Sean Payton era and early in the Dennis Allen era, they've won on the back of a elite defense. That will be the game plan again going forward. That's been the whole conversation, though, right? Has been Derek Carr, his injury, the offensive line, they stink, all of that. Alvin Kamara comes back this week, and we haven't even really talked about it. And I think part of the reason is because many don't really think it'll matter. Is that fair? Like, is that fair to say? Can Alvin Kamara really boost your running game enough behind the Saints offensive line right now? Probably not. The more interesting aspect with it for me is the passing game. Does that allow the Saints to get the ball out quicker with Alvin Kamara back? You can bring him back. The Saints throwing to the running backs has been virtually non-existent through the first 3 weeks of this season. And it's been maddening because that's been such a hallmark of the Saints offense for 15 plus years now. And you just haven't seen it. That's what it brings back. And that's what I'm most interested in because it will allow you, again, to get the ball out of Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, Taysom Hill, Jake, whoever they put behind the center, out of their hand faster, and maybe that opens up more things for the New Orleans Saints. It is a dimension of this offense that they have greatly, greatly been missing that will return with Alvin Kamara. And the interesting part about it is this isn't like Kamara's coming off injury. When you look at expectation, when you look at production that you could potentially see from him, why can't you see him go out there and be Alvin Kamara? He's in shape. He was allowed back in meetings and everything this past week by rules of the suspension. He's been in the building now again. Dennis Allen said yesterday he looked great. He looked explosive. He's in shape. All right. Turn him loose. And specifically in the passing game, because you have so sorely missed that from your offense. And it's a dimension that you have to have, especially behind that offensive line. Be interesting to see. No, it's not the run game. It's the passing game that I'm most interested to see with Alvin Kamara. All right, we're going to grab a break. Come back on the other side. LSU, they're doling out offers in the secondary to recruits. We'll talk about that a little bit. Bizarre situation at the Phillies game that I want to spend a moment on when we come back. And, of course, we'll go around the SEC as well. Fantasy Blitz still to come in this hour. Get your questions in for Darin, Tietgen, whotostart.net, fantasy football advice, Bayou Ford YouTube chat, or tweet them at me at Musso Matthew. Just any question you have for Darin. We got that coming up at the end of the hour as well. Grab a break. Be back with more AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Glow Resources. So excited to welcome Glow Resources to the AFR family. GlowResources.com if you want to learn more. Glow is G-L-O, GlowResources.com. Whether you are trying to place for white-collar jobs or blue-collar jobs, Glow Resources can help. Go to GlowResources.com, G-L-O, GlowResources.com. You know, compared to some other job placement agencies, Glow will explore strategies that fully support the competitive culture. They focus on HR processes. They keep track of operating costs. And their search firm is really dedicated to ensuring that both the employer and the employee are mutually growing together in the workplace. It's Glow Resources. They provide end-to-end services. They can even close clients for you, close potential candidates for you. GlowResources.com. That's G-L-O, GlowResources.com.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawBillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shaw Bills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires, the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shaw Bills. Let them give it the once-over. And you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawBillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawBillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawBillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shaw Bills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shaw Bills credit card only at Shaw Bills.
Did y'all see this lunacy at the Phillies game last night? You know how sometimes ballparks, whether it be major league, minor league, they always like invite you to bring your pet, bark at the park. They have the dog night, right, where everybody can bring their dog. And I'm just a massive supporter of bark at the park, by the way. Yeah, this wasn't that. Like there was actually none of that involved in this. So there's a guy named Joey Heaney. I hope I'm saying that right. Joey was turned away at the gates of Citizens Bank Ballpark last night because he tried to enter with his emotional support alligator. He had an alligator on a leash with one of those like service dog vests on it and was promptly turned away. Now, this reminded me of a couple things. Really, first and foremost, just being from Louisiana, I feel like a lot of the time, most of us have been asked either jokingly or in a very serious manner if we have a pet alligator, to which the answer is always no. We don't actually live in a swamp. Like we don't actually live in a shack that's held up on stilts in swampland. That is not actually what happens down here. Now, if I ever get asked that question, I think I will answer with that and also bring up our guy Joey Heaney, who lives in Philadelphia. Or at least I assume he lives in Philadelphia. Maybe not. Maybe he traveled this thing forever and just brought it there. He's the one with the pet alligator. You don't just have to be from Louisiana or Florida. Maybe you're from Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love. Beck, would you have let him in the game with an emotional support alligator? 6. Mike 6.
There we go. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, you've been on video. They moved you.
I would have let him in, man. It's an emotional.
Yeah?
Like they let people with emotional support animals into like on airplanes and stuff like that. So if he's able to have this thing be an actual official support animal for him, and I'm guessing he hasn't had any instance where it tries to bite anyone. Alligators are known to be a little rather docile compared to like crocodiles. So I would let him in. I mean, as long as he has it on a short leash, I think I'd let him in.
He had it on a fairly short leash. I mean, the interesting part is how he got the vest on it. I mean, I assume alligators can't see behind, so they can only see forward. They're blind if you come up from behind them. So maybe that's how, but or maybe he really just has made this thing a pet.
It's really his friend, man.
Maybe. I don't know. I think he's kind of nuts to do that. I don't know why an alligator brings you emotional support.
Somebody did this. I don't know if it was last year or when, but I saw it on social media. There was I think it was a lady that had an emotional support alligator, and she was trying to bring it to like a theme park, I think, and they didn't let her in. So
I would imagine not.
It happens.
Yeah. The other thing that this has brought up, by the way, the alligator's name is Wally. The other thing that this has brought up is comparisons to the Chicago Cubs and the Curse of the Billy Goat, where they didn't allow old boy and his goat into the World Series game, and then he placed a curse on the Cubs, and they didn't win a World Series for 108 years or whatnot. No word on if Joey Heaney cursed the Philadelphia Phillies, but they haven't won a World Series in over a decade anyway. They're not very good. They're going to the wild card game. Congrats to them. Who knows? Maybe
Curse of the Gator.
Maybe they are cursed. Maybe it's the Curse of the Gator now. That remains to be seen. Or maybe the Phillies just aren't that good, and that's why they haven't won a World Series and maybe continue to not. Or maybe they win it this year. Who knows? They're in. Get in the dance. That's how it goes. All right. Pivot here a little awkwardly from a emotional sport alligator to around the SEC.
Around the SEC, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products, excellence in imaging solutions. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Tide linebacker Deontay Lawson and reserve offensive lineman Terrence Ferguson did not practice yesterday. Neither of them and Nick Saban, quote, very questionable for their game against Mississippi State. Lawson suffered a sprained ankle last week against Ole Miss, while Ferguson ended up walking gingerly heading into the locker room. Again, very questionable. You look at Lawson, he's a key piece at the linebacker position for Alabama. 26 tackles, 3.5 tackles for a loss, and 2 sacks already through 4 games. Jaheed Campbell and Tresman Marshall would be in line to replace Lawson. If he can't go, Ferguson entered the Ole Miss game as a replacement for Darian Dalcourt. Dalcourt returned. Of course, as I said, Ferguson did not. Bama's been pretty thin on the offensive line and could be without a key reserve against State.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss edge rusher Reginald Hughes announces his intention to enter the transfer portal. That happened Wednesday evening on his social media. Hughes was in his second season at Ole Miss. He appeared in 12 games a year ago, played in the first 4 games this season. News broke earlier that Michael Trigg, talked about that earlier in the show as well, was no longer with the program, and that Reginald Hughes was no longer with the program. Now he intends to enter the transfer portal. Because he only played in 4 games, he preserves the redshirt year. Totaled 9 tackles in 16 games total in Oxford.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
And Josh Heupel has designated Cooper Mays, offensive lineman, as a game-time decision this weekend against South Carolina. Mays, arguably the Vols' top offensive lineman coming into this season, had an injury preseason, required surgery. It's taken a little bit longer to come back. He has not appeared in a game yet, but they are optimistic. Cooper Mays' game-time decision versus the Gamecocks. That is Around the SEC. It's brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Excellence in imaging solution, Gulf Coast Office Products. Go check them out over there for all your office product needs. LSU, before we hit to break here, I want to mention this real fast. Tigers have offered a cornerback in the 2024 class. Last night, Bernard Causey out of John F. Kennedy down in New Orleans tweeted the good news from his account. Blessed to receive an offer from Louisiana State University. Three-star cornerback, committed to Ole Miss. He committed to the Rebs this summer, but LSU now making a late push for him. One of the top senior cornerbacks in Louisiana, top 30 player in the state, a top 100 cornerback nationally. So maybe not the largest name prospect, but LSU's had a pretty fair eye for talent there. The interesting part is obviously the position of need, and that Brian Kelly and his staff have consistently said they want that position specifically. They want to rebuild it through recruiting, where you're not just going transfer portal class after transfer portal class after transfer portal class, rebuilding the cornerback spot. And while numbers look better, and you do have some guys with multiple years of eligibility, it's not like Kelly's first year where you went and got Mekhi Garner, you went and got Jark Bernard Converse, and they were 1-year guys. You have guys now on this team out of the portal with a little bit more eligibility, extra years. A guy like Denver Harris, for instance, is one of those guys. But then again, there is the Deuce Chestnut. There is Zy Alexander. There are those guys as well. So they still need to build that position up from a depth standpoint. Bernard Causey could be in the boat. It's interesting. LSU, look, man, they've obviously had a great track record, especially with in-state guys, in doing this, kind of coming in late in the process with an offer and pulling them away from schools. Now, some of them have obviously worked out better than others, but I mean, you think about a guy like Jack Besh. LSU did that very famously there. Committed to Vanderbilt. They slide in kind of late, pull him away. Could Bernard Causey be that guy this year? Possibly. Also interesting timing, right? Ole Miss week. They go and try to poach out of Lane's class week of the game. I like it. I see you. I respect it. So LSU doles out an offer to 3-star cornerback out of John F. Kennedy in New Orleans, Bernard Causey, currently committed to the Ole Miss Rebels. We'll keep an eye on that as the early signing date approaches here in December. We're going to grab a break. We're going to come back on the other side of that break. It's the Fantasy Blitz. Do it every week. Darin Tietgen, whotostart.net. He'll join us, get you set for Thursday Night Football, Lions and Packers. Any questions you have for Darin, get them in. Of course, you can tweet them at me, at Musso Matthew. Go to the Bayou Ford YouTube chat as well. whotostart.net. Personalized fantasy football advice. Will do the Fantasy Blitz with Darin Tietgen next on a Thursday edition of AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Darin James and Associates, brokered by eXp Realty. Every home, listed by every company, all in one place. You know where to find it, agent225.com. And now, it has never been easier to sell your home with Darin James. He guarantees it. The Guaranteed Sale Program is back. It works like this. You're looking to sell your home? Call Darin James. He'll sit down with you. The two of you will agree to a price and a deadline. And Darin has to sell your home at that price, by that deadline. If he doesn't, he will have your home bought with cash, or he will sell it absolutely free. No commission. It's Darin James and Associates, brokered by eXp Realty. Why would you call anyone else? You got a guy that's number 54 in the country. Top 1% of realtors in America. And he's guaranteeing he's going to sell your home. It's Darin James. 335-7666 or agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darin James.
Relentless reporting gets results.
I'm never going to stop until we get the answers you need.
Uncovering more as the powerful try to cover things up.
What happens in the dark will always come to light.
Founding new principles and practices for the state of Louisiana.
Chief Investigative Reporter Chris Nakamoto.
Chris Nakamoto and the Investigative Unit. Recipients of Columbia University's prestigious DuPont Award.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scucha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com. After further review, this is the Fantasy Football Blitz.
Do you know who I am?
Powered by whotostart.net.
Who the hell are you?
whotostart.net.
King of the Who?
The Fantasy Football Blitz.
Who the Britons?
This is the Fantasy Football Blitz, powered by whotostart.net.
Back here on After Further Review, Musso filling in for Moscona here on a Thursday. It's time to do the Fantasy Football Blitz. For that, we turn to our guy from whotostart.net, Darin Tietgen. Darin, appreciate the time. Another week as always. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. So, look, let's start Thursday Night Football. Before we get into the more broad aspect of Thursday Night Football, Packers-Lions, I want to thought specifically on Aaron Jones. It looks like he's set to make his return tonight, and I guess Christian Watkins for that matter too. A few loose lips there in the Packers locker room, kind of spilling the beans. But for owners of those guys, what can they expect tonight?
Yeah, I mean, if those guys are good to go, they're definitely worth starting. Obviously, they've missed Aaron Jones and to some extent Watson as well. But getting those guys back in the lineup is going to mean even better things for Jordan Love, who's looked really good in his first three starts this year, at least for the Packers. So getting those two guys really going to energize that offense.
All right. In a more broad aspect, guys, keeping an eye on tonight, Lions, Packers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are two names you're going to want to watch. If you have them in on your team, you're probably going to want to start them. Both going to be pretty good starts. Romeo Doubs, even with Christian Watson back in the lineup, he'll be a solid start. For the Lions, obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown is a must start every week. Their tight end is an up-and-comer, Sam Laporta. And, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs in PPR formats is a solid start as well.
Sleepers, you got your eye on there here in week 4 of the NFL season?
Yeah, we got a few for you. A quarterback, we like Kenny Pickett. Is traveling to Houston. Obviously, Houston got a big win last week, their first win. But their defensive backs, their linebackers, they're not going to be able to keep up with George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. So like Kenny Pickett, should get you 250 yards, probably a couple touchdowns. Running back wise, this is kind of his make or break game. That's Alexander Madison. He's got Cam Akers kind of waiting in the wings there. Had a pretty rough couple games here to start the season. Does have a really nice matchup, however, against Carolina. So if he can't get things going this week, it's going to be probably sayonara for him. So get him into your lineups as a flex. And then finally, we love Elijah Moore, who has 25 targets in 3 games facing the Baltimore Ravens. Look for the Browns to try to control the game with Jerome Ford and the short passing game, which definitely bodes well for Moore.
whotostart.net, Darin Tietgen with us. Get some listener questions again. Get them in while you can. Bayou Ford YouTube chat. You can tweet them at me, at Musso Matthew. Darin, who to start, David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, Montgomery probably is playing tonight, but it's a short week. He's coming off injury. Josh Jacobs is just pretty much the better running back to begin with. So given the injury considerations, I would go with Jacobs there.
This is more of a who to sit out of these 3. You need to start 2: DeAndre Swift, Tyler Lockett, or DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think it's as much as I'm reluctant to start anyone on the Bears. I think it's probably Lockett that you sit. His targets are just way down right now. Geno Smith is locking on to DK Metcalf, his tight ends, and then even Jackson Smith and Jigba in three wide receiver sets. I think Lockett had like maybe 4 targets last week. That's not a number like you'd like to see out of a number 2 wide receiver. So I think I'm sitting Lockett there.
Who to start, Joe Burrow or Geno Smith?
I have this exact same quandary in one of my leagues, and I'm going with Burrow. The calf still doesn't look right. It doesn't look like he's moving around like he usually does, but the matchup's pretty good, and I think that you start Burrow if he's actually playing.
Darin, not a listener question, just one that kind of popped into my mind real quick that I'm curious about with Alvin Kamara and the Saints. With Kamara coming back, I mean, this feels like a pretty interesting situation where it's not coming off an injury, he's coming off a suspension. So, I mean, how do you kind of handle that from a perspective? Is that a situation where, okay, if you have him, he should be good to go, or with the Saints offense the way it is?
Yeah, I mean, he's in football shape. From what I understand, he hasn't been able to practice with the team, but I'm assuming that he's got a host of trainers and people that he's been working with these past few weeks to keep him in football shape. Like you said, he's not coming off injury, so I'm starting him where I have him and hoping for the best.
Who to start, Bijan Robinson or Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, at this point, Bijan Robinson looks like a must start in all formats. I don't know who the guy's second running back is, or if he has a flex. But if you can get Jacobs in there somehow, I would do that as well. But if it's between those two, I'm going with Bijan every time.
Darin Tietgen, whotostart.net, Fantasy Blitz with us here every Thursday on After Further Review. Darin, we appreciate the time. Y'all get to whotostart.net, and we'll do this again next week.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. All right, putting a button here on hour number 1 of After Further Review. Musso filling in for Moscona. Moscona will be back tomorrow. Quick little pit stop for Matt, and he'll be back in the chair tomorrow. We'll have the full Thursday show ready to go for you there. But for now, we have a lot left to do here on this Thursday show. Take a look at the Saints-Bucs injury report. Talked a little bit about Derek Carr there at the first hour. We're going to get to that a little bit more here next. And Neal McCready from Rebel Grove as well, still to come. So it's Thursday edition of AFR. Musso in for Moscona. We're going to grab a break. Sports Center on the other side. And we will be back with more next.
AFR.
Let me remind you about Traction, TractionSports.com, TractionSports.com. Traction, where champions are made. You want your son or daughter to reach their absolute best in whatever sport it is they play. Traction can help. You know, I've told you about Traction over the years, going into Traction and seeing professional athletes from so many different sports who maybe played collegiately in Louisiana and they come back to train, or even athletes who didn't play collegiately here, but by virtue of their travels throughout the country in different places have met people or have found out about Traction. They'll come train here in the off season. They'll even come rehab injuries. Told you there was a really cool picture Traction over the summer where there was an NFL player for the Packers and a young football player from here in the Baton Rouge area. They took a picture side by side at Traction Physical Therapy because they were both rehabbing the same injury, both there at the same facility. It's Traction. TractionSports.com, TractionSports.com to learn more right there on Burbank. Traction, where champions are made.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Going to win the World Series, and he has great joy in doing that. Market Ronald Acuna Jr. You're welcome, Major League Baseball.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Lions and Packers at Lambeau Field tonight. The first game of Week 4 in the NFL. Both teams 2-1. The Lions have won 3 straight in this series. The last one knocked the Packers out of playoff contention last year in Aaron Rodgers' final game for Green Bay. Dolphins wideout Jalen Waddle is now out of concussion protocol. He'll be available to play Sunday on the road against the Bills. After trading to get Kyrie Irving 7 months ago, the Mavericks signed him to a 3-year deal worth up to $126 million. Team owner Mark Cuban believes in Irving's potential chemistry with Luka Doncic.
He knows it's Luka's team. He knows the narrative about him. He's not done. He's smart. And he recognizes that he's got to fit and play within, the role he has relative to Luka in order for us to be successful. And if we're successful, Kyrie's successful. And so he knows where he's at in his career.
Mark Cuban on Greeny. The Ryder Cup tees off tomorrow in Italy. The U.S. hasn't won the Cup on foreign soil in 30 years. Europe is a slight favorite.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Friday, I'll tell you which team's fate will be sealed this weekend with a loss. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
That's right.
Back in hour number 2 after further review. Musso filling in for Moscona. Scone's back tomorrow. Carry into the football weekend as per usual on the Friday. But got 2 more hours of me here. Jacob Beck sitting where I normally sit. Paul O'Neill in his normal spot. And we're here for you for another 2 hours. Great first hour in the books. Still plenty to come. Get you a check of the full injury report. Saints-Bucs here coming up. Got to head to Oxford here in the next segment. We'll talk to Neal McCready from Rebel Grove. Get a closer look at the Ole Miss Rebels. And look, it's Thursday, so we got to give you our what to watch. Paul and I will give you ours today a little bit later on here as well. Matt, we'll give you his tomorrow or, I don't know, at some point. One of them's the Iowa offense, so we'll take care of that. Mike Triplett still to come in the next hour as well. Talk some Saints as, again, they get prepared for the Bucs. So that's what we're going to do right here and take a closer look at the injury report number 2 of the week, and some changes of note for both sides. Let's start with the Saints. The obvious changes are Jimmy Graham and Ryan Ramczyk. They had their Veteran Day off yesterday. They were full participants today. They're good, healthy, just, need the rest, so they get the rest every Wednesday. That's the very obvious change. The other change, Foster Moreau with his ankle went from a DNP to a limited practice participant today for New Orleans. The other, and of course, Derek Carr, I guess would be the other obvious one. The AC joint did not practice. We'll get a better update on that with Mike Triplett. I mean, they had the media portion today, and what did it look like with Derek Carr? Was it exactly like yesterday? Were there any differences? Anything you can glean from it? We'll get a better update there, but again, did not practice. The other ones, Jordan Howden, safety, finger, did not practice for the second day in a row. Well, that's not great. Obviously, I think many expected him to be out with the Saints signing Daniel Sorensen, so you expect to see Daniel Sorensen probably in this football game if you're a fan of the Saints or if you're New Orleans in general. Dennis Allen was asked yesterday in his media availability if it was going to require surgery. He kind of tiptoed around that with Howden, but he didn't practice again today and most likely trending towards being out against the Buccaneers with the finger. Paulson Adebo is the other member of the secondary. He did not practice again today with a hamstring. So that's 2 DNPs in a row for him as well. And that's an interesting one for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, look, the Saints, they're pretty deep at cornerback. Adebo's just been great when he's been able to be on the field for the Saints, whether it was the rookie year when he burst onto the scene or subsequent times after that. Alontae Taylor played very well outside of the couple pass interference calls. The spot foul was unfortunate, but that's the rule in the NFL. You can have that conversation till you're blue in the face. I don't really think anybody likes the spot foul. It's one of those love-hate relationships, right? But anyway, outside of that, Alontae Taylor was fantastic. You feel great moving him out. And honestly, Isaac Yiadom was pretty good whenever they moved Taylor back into the slot. Yiadom held his own on the outside as well. So it's an interesting spot there. But again, I think you feel pretty good there. Cesar Ruiz being in concussion protocol and not practicing again today is, well, I want to say concerning, but the offensive line wasn't very good with Cesar Ruiz in there to begin with. But that's one, again, with him in protocol, concussion protocol, I should say, having to meet those checkpoints time after time after time, get to different levels to be able to make it out. It's Thursday of game week. He's still not practicing. He's still in that protocol. I think it's safe to probably assume that's trending to an out designation as well come game time for Cesar Ruiz. So I think the very obvious thing is roll with the line you put out there when he went down. You moved Hurst over to right guard and you put Andres Pete in at left guard, and you go Penning, Pete, McCoy, Hurst, and Ramczyk from left to right. I think what's more interesting potentially is, do the Saints experiment any in that position? I don't think that they do, but I mean, you have a rookie in Saldivari there who definitely can play the interior spot on the line. But again, it's telling what they did. And if Pete's healthy and if Hurst is healthy, and those guys have shown they can be very good, it's just, you feel great about, great. You feel good about Andres Pete normally at left guard. It's a spot he's held down for you when he's been healthy. Hurst on the right side's a little bit more iffy, if you will, but it's going to probably be the spot that you're in here if you're the New Orleans Saints. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a couple changes, and they are significant. We'll start in the secondary with Carlton Davis and his toe injury. He went from a limited participant yesterday to a full participant today. That's massive because he's their best corner, obviously, and he's one of the best corners in the National Football League, and they greatly missed him in his timeout, specifically last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Him being a full participant on Thursday, that's huge. Now, what you like is what you've seen from the Saints receiving corps, obviously, so far, whether it be Chris Olave, you love what you've seen from him, one-handed catches everywhere, and Michael Thomas has been good, and Rashid Shaheed. So you have multiple weapons. What's of greater consequence is the rest of the cornerback position for Tampa Bay, and you look at a guy like Jamel Dean, who did not practice again for the second day in a row. So while they are likely to get Carlton Davis back, they are not likely to get Jamel Dean back, and then Derek Pitts with his hamstring in the secondary also did not practice. So you still look at that, or at least I do, and I say advantage Saints from a personnel standpoint. Can they get the ball to them? That'll be a different story, and one that'll play out in due time, and one that we're all very aware of. But just on paper, you like the Saints wide receivers against the Buccaneers secondary, even with Carlton Davis coming back, because you still have multiple injuries in there that don't look. Again, you have one more day, but Thursday of game week, you're not practicing. That's not a great sign. The other big change, Devin White, linebacker there, obviously foot injury. He played in the game against Philadelphia, had the interception. You could just really tell he wasn't fully there. He ran out of bounds after the interception, and he toughed it out. That was Todd Bowles' exact words when asked about Devin White after the game. He did not practice on Wednesday, back in a limited capacity today. I'll be very interested to see Devin White's status on tomorrow's injury report, because can he take that next step, right? I think it's likely. You haven't really seen reports, or at least I haven't seen reports of any type of setback for Devin White. So are they just bringing him along slowly where it's a DNP? Now you're back on a short week, limited. Does he go to full practice the next day? That's going to be huge. Look, I don't have to tell any of y'all listening here the star that Devin White is. We've been very familiar with him for a very, very long time. Servassier Dennis, another linebacker, didn't practice. That's more depth there, right? I mean, if you're the Buccaneers, hamstring for him. And the last one that we got to talk about is Vita Vea. Didn't practice, didn't play in the game against the Eagles, and that's huge. I mean, that is a massive presence inside. And when you look at the Saints offensive line, how they've struggled literally at every position, you can't take any type of break for granted that you could possibly get there. And if you're looking to hopefully establish a running game, if you're the New Orleans Saints, the Buccaneers missing a presence like Vita Vea in the middle of that line is a great place to start. So a do not practice DNP there for him as well with the pec. And look, you could look at it this year for the Buccaneers with what it's done to their line, not having him. You can go back to last year when they didn't have him as well, and it was massive. Ultimately, pretty evened out on the injury report for both sides. It's going to be a fight to the death between the Buccaneers and the Saints. You throw records out the windows, turnovers, all that stuff's going to be important. But looking at it from a injury report standpoint, I think you feel a little bit better about the Saints' depth than you do the Buccaneers when you look at the matchup. And that's one of the things for Tampa Bay. You know, look, when we had Greg Allman here yesterday previewing the Buccaneers side of things, that's one of the things he mentioned was they're not as deep as they are. They still have plenty of experience from the Super Bowl team. They just don't have the bodies behind them. And when you look at their injury report, there's some key names, although some of them definitely seem to be on the mend. All right, that's your injury report for the Saints and the Buccaneers. We are going to grab a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to flip it back to college football and back to LSU and Ole Miss. We're going to head up to Oxford, talk to Neal McCready from Rebel Grove, get a closer look at the Rebels. Magnolia Bowl, it's this Saturday, 5 p.m. on ESPN. We'll have a preview of Ole Miss on the other side. It's after further review on a Thursday, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Musso filling in for Moscona. Stay here. We'll be back with more on AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, do what injured people in Louisiana have done for more than 30 years. Call Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. 888-8888. It's all eights. 888-8888. I don't even need to give you the area code because no matter where you are in the state, it doesn't matter. Just dial 888-8888 for Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Gordon does an awesome job, man. He's a great person. They've been so invested in our communities with all the charitable and service work that they do. They give back into the communities that they represent, no matter what time of year. If it's the bike giveaway for kids around Christmas time, if it's the laptop giveaway around back to school time, if it's the charitable work they do during October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they're always involved in the community. We tell you all the time, of course, about the G team and what Gordon's done with NIL and the opportunities that he's afforded student athletes. Just a great, great community partner. If you've been injured, you need representation, go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Always a pleasure to tell you about our friends at the Williamson Eye Center. Check them out online at williamsoneye.com. They've got locations all over the greater Baton Rouge area. On the Baton Rouge General Campus, you turn off a Bluebonnet onto Picardy, you make that right. And then right there at the stop sign, the building on the right, the first 2 floors, that's the Williamson Eye Center. State-of-the-art dry eye center, and it's full service. Of course, they have their state-of-the-art surgery center there where you can have your LASIK or whatever surgical procedure you're having. But they have your standard annual eye exam as well at the Williamson Eye Center. Learn more at williamsoneye.com. The thing I tell you every day is take the advice that I was given and change your life. To give yourself the gift of sight is absolutely incredible. If you're someone like me who spent your life with contacts or glasses, there is a way to be done with it forever. WilliamsonEye.com. Go see Dr. Blake Williamson for that free consultation. 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com for the Williamson Eye Center.
Back here after further review on a Thursday. Musso filling in for Moscona. Let's head up to Oxford, get a closer look at the Rebs, of course, Tigers, and Ole Miss, 5 p.m. Saturday in Vaught Hemingway Stadium, the latest rendition of the Magnolia Bowl. Welcome in Neal McCready from Rebel Grove. Neal, we appreciate the time. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you having me. Always good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. So, Neal, look, I kind of want to start just with a vibe check in a sense. Ole Miss off to the 3-0 start, a lot of hype, a lot of social media hype surrounding Alabama. They go in. It's a tightly contested first half. Not so much in the second half. What's kind of the vibes around Ole Miss and around Oxford after that game?
Yeah, I don't know how much social media hype there was. It was just generated by one person who did all the hype. He sort of set himself up for that. After that game, it should have been sobering to Ole Miss people. There was a lot of talk about going in there and winning. A lot of people talking about winning big. A lot of national media picked them to win. They had not really played. They had not really been tested yet. They played Tulane, but Pratt didn't play that day. They had played Georgia Tech, and the score looked different than what the reality was. The reality was that was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. I think coming out of the Alabama game, there's a sobering reality that, A, this is not going to be easy, and that's what I think some people were starting to think, and that, B, this team has flaws, some significant flaws that unless they can fix or find workarounds that are probably going to be fatal at times.
So looking at the team as a whole, as they prepare to welcome in LSU, one of the obvious talking points throughout the offseason and leading in was quarterback position. Who was it going to be? It ends up being Jackson Dart. What'd you make of his performance so far through the first 4 weeks?
Oh, I think he's been terrific. I think he's been maybe one of the 2 or 3 bright spots on their team. You know, I never understood a lot of the quarterback thing in the first place. When they brought Spencer Sanders in, it was sort of it was a head scratcher, I guess is what I'm looking for. You know, they brought Walker Howard in, made total sense. You needed a quarterback for the future, a guy that was, you know, had a lot of eligibility left. This is Spencer Sanders' final year. You assumed when they brought him in that he brought him in to be the guy, to be the starter. And I think there was an expectation that maybe Jackson would leave. He didn't. He stayed. He competed. He won the job. He's played really well. The problem for him has been some of his receiver targets have had a hard time staying healthy. They've not been able to establish the running game. Jackson Dart's the leading rusher on this team, and up front, it's the big question mark with Ole Miss this year. That offensive line has just not performed the way that a lot of people thought that it would with 4 returning starters, and that's been the problem for them. He's gotten hit a lot. He's been pressured a lot. He's had to escape and run a lot, and they've had to use him as a design runner a lot to try to establish the running game, and they've put a lot on his plate.
What has gone so wrong with the offensive line, Neal? Because you just mentioned it. I mean, 4 returning starters. I mean, what has happened there that it's been such a struggle for them? I mean, I know Lane Kiffin said it earlier this week when he was asked about the run game, where he goes, well, you know, I mean, it's not like we're a team that hasn't been able to run the football in the past, or a program that hasn't been able to run the football in the past. They have been. What has gone so wrong there up front?
It's a great question. I'm not sure I completely know the answer. They're getting beat on the perimeter. They're getting beat in the A gaps. They've made some adjustments. They've changed starters at left tackle. Jaden Williams is out. Victor Kern's in, the Washington transfer. He's been fine. The UAB transfer, Cedric McGee's playing left guard. He's been fine. Jeremy James is coming back from an injury. He's playing guard. I think he's more of a natural tackle. He wants to play tackle. Their center is beat up a little bit. But all of that being said, they just don't appear to have a lot of chemistry up front. They're committing, especially at the right tackle. Micah Pettis has been a holding machine. He'll have his hands full on Saturday with the LSU's electric front. And Lane's right. Look, if you think about his teams, not just his Ole Miss teams, but going back to Alabama, to USC, to FAU, whatever the case may be, they've always been able to run the football. That's what they do. We in the media sometimes do the whole, they throw it a lot, they're pass happy and all that stuff. It's really not true. They've established the run. And you look at his Ole Miss teams, and statistically, they've been at or near the top of the SEC in most rushing categories at the end of the season. This year, that's not been the case. They've just not been able to establish it. And look, when you build your offense off the running game and you can't run it, well, you know the rest. Everything else gets super hard. And you throw in some injuries to wide receivers and some continuity type things, and it can get kind of rough.
So I think the obvious place for me to go then next with that is Quinshon Judkins. And I think everyone's really wants to say is, where is he? But I mean, he is there. It's just been a struggle getting him going. So how do they get him going more? Is it more in the passing game if they can't get it going up front? Because I mean, look, I don't have to tell you, Quinshon Judkins is electric. Like, that's a guy you got to get the ball in his hands, right?
Well, he was electric last year. That was certainly the case. So far this year, I think he's been banged up a little bit. He has not been electric. He's had a hard time getting going. He doesn't appear to have some of the wiggle that he had last year. He's gotten a little bigger, not in a fat way, but he's gotten a little stronger. You know, I think sometimes these guys, after that freshman year, they get in the weight room and maybe they get too much in the weight room, and you can get a little stiff. And I'm not saying he is, but he doesn't look the same, and that might be the injury. It might just be some stuff. He got banged up at the end of that Tulane game a few weeks ago, and really hasn't been super effective. He had a couple of runs against Alabama where he was starting to look like his old self, so maybe he's on the verge of a breakthrough. They desperately need that. If he can't break through, look, no one talked about it because of the year that Judkins had. But they had Zach Evans a year ago, and there was a number of games where Zach Evans was super effective for them and a real change of pace, and he was certainly the type of back that if you were a defensive coordinator, you had to prepare for him because he was a game breaker, and if he got loose in space, he was really difficult to bring down. And I think that took some pressure off Judkins, and I think it stopped offensive coordinators from being able to completely key in on Quinshon, and now they can, and they have, and they've been able to neutralize him.
Talking with Neal McCready on Twitter at Neal McCready. Neal, you've mentioned it a couple times throughout this interview here about the injuries on the outside to the wide receivers. I'm curious about a few of them. I know obviously Zachary Franklin made a return last week for the first time, very limited. It looked like he was getting more involved in practice this week, as well as Trey Harris, who went down in that Tulane game and had surgery and is already back. Any new update you can tell us on those two guys?
No, they're super quiet about injuries here. It's kind of the antithesis of the way Brian Kelly treats it at LSU. They don't talk about it. Harris, he played, I think, 5 snaps at Alabama, but he wasn't anywhere near himself. He was just very limited, kind of red zone packages. I don't know. I don't know whether how much he'll be back. I don't think it's realistic to expect that he's going to be 100% a week later. Caden Prescorn, the tight end, made his debut last week. Looked gassed by the end. Looked pretty sluggish. He'd been in a boot for basically a month, so that's to be expected. You don't just play your way into playing shape with one game. You mentioned Zachary Franklin. He did play 60 snaps, so that's probably a sign that he's pretty close to ready to go and feeling good. So he's, of those 3, he's probably the one that I would say is closest to 100%. But there's not a lot of chemistry there. There's not a lot of continuity there because those guys haven't played. And here we are, week 5, and you're going up against an SEC team, and you're trying to make those things happen. And those guys didn't play against Mercer. They didn't play against Tulane. They didn't play against Georgia Tech, and you can see it.
I want to flip sides of the ball now and go to the defense. Just kind of leave it pretty open-ended. The biggest strength you've seen so far through 4 weeks for the Ole Miss defense.
They're just so much better coached. Pete Golding has them playing a 4-man front. They're far more fundamentally sound. They're in the right place more often. They're tackling better. They just appear to like this scheme better than they liked the one a year ago, which was a little bit more passive, a little bit more bend and try not to break, and you bent and you bent and you bent, and over the course of a day that wore you out a little bit. This one's more aggressive. They're getting in the right gap more often than they did a year ago. There was times last couple of years where you would just see, the C's part, and it was assignments blown. They've minimized that. The one thing about this defense is that it doesn't have the speed guys that a lot of times you see in the SEC. I think Pete Golding would like to have a faster defense, but they're working on that on the recruiting end. The one guy to watch, and you saw a bunch of him against Alabama last week, is Suntarin Perkins, the 5-star recruit that they got out of Raleigh, Mississippi a year ago. Everybody recruited him. They used him as a spy a little bit on Jalen Milroe. He was really effective. They used him in some different ways that just sort of utilize his speed and athleticism, and he was kind of a weapon for Ole Miss defensively. And I think you'll see more of him against LSU and then on down the road. He's obviously a guy that they're super excited about.
Are you kind of expecting the same role for him, given Jaden Daniels' ability to run the ball as well?
Yeah, I would think so. But you got to keep in mind he's a true freshman. I think you can, if you throw too much at him, all of a sudden you're complicating things. I would think they'll use him a good bit in that role, but now LSU's seen it, so LSU's prepared for it.
Fair.
So you're going to get some of that chess game. The problem when you use a spy is you can take a defender out of the pass game. The opposing offenses can scheme that away, right? Where you pay for that. You pay for the guy just kind of floating there, waiting for the quarterback to commit, and downfield there's a hole in the zone, or there's an opening for you to do, with routes, you can run somebody open. So you have to be careful with doing a whole lot of that. And look, at this point, Jaden Daniels has seen just about every defense someone's going to throw at him. I'm a big Daniels fan. I think he's terrific. And so I'm sure they'll throw some different looks at him, and that'll be one that they'll throw. And he's a really effective player in that manner. He can close fast. He's very athletic. He's a good tackler. He's a physical player. But no, I don't think they'll just 70 snaps line up Perkins as a spy and say chase Jaden Daniels around. I doubt that's the strategy.
A couple more with Neal McCready here before I let you go. You mentioned lack of speed. Would you categorize that as the biggest weakness for the Ole Miss defense, or is there something else that stands out?
Yeah, it's probably that. It's just, over the last few years, that's not where they've recruited a lot of, star-studded players. They've had a lot of success on the offensive side of the ball, and they've not had as much on defense. They were really relying on the transfer portal. They signed more than 20 transfer portal guys on defense alone in this last cycle. So it's just a bunch of guys that they're trying to fit and find. And again, Golding's done a terrific job, but this will be their biggest test to date. I think the LSU offense is elite. I know everybody down there is worried about defense and defensive backs, and I get it, but I think that LSU offense is elite. I think you saw that last week with their ability to hold serve against Arkansas when Arkansas got going in the second half. Look, if LSU's offense has a bad drive, a turnover, anything that could have ended differently in Baton Rouge last week. The fact that offense just stayed on schedule, possession after possession after possession, was, I would hope LSU fans appreciated it, because that game could have gone the other way. I think KJ Jefferson's terrific now. I mean, he's one of the more underrated players in the league, and probably LSU's defensive staff agrees with that after what happened Saturday. That LSU offense, man, it's special.
Yeah, I think we all saw how massive it was in the game last year that he didn't play KJ Jefferson as opposed to this time around. So yeah, he was certainly dynamic. I don't want to say he didn't miss Rocket Sanders, but it was almost like, they put up 31 points even without him. KJ made up so much of the missing of him. Last one, Neal, if there's a blueprint for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss at home to win the game, how do they do it?
Well, LSU is going to score points, and so you have to hold serve. You've got to run the football. You can't have turnovers. You've got to score with them. You've got to keep the pressure on them. You got to run tempo. You got to get into that defensive secondary. You've got to get LSU playing maybe a little tentative defensively, worrying about giving up big plays. You got to stay ahead of the chains. You got to stay. It's got to be 3rd and 3, not 3rd and 13. It's basic stuff. And then look, at some point, if Ole Miss is going to win this game, they've got to create a couple of turnovers. They've got to get that LSU offense off the field, off schedule, and maybe do something where you get up 10-14 and you get LSU chasing points. Although Arkansas got up 10 and they just came right back. Touchdown, got the ball back, touchdown. That's what they are. And I think if you're Ole Miss, that has to be your concern, is that I just think the LSU offense is so much more explosive than Ole Miss's is.
He is Neal McCready, Rebel Grove, on Twitter at Neal McCready. Covers Ole Miss. Y'all give him a follow, especially with the coverage here this week leading into the Magnolia Bowl. Neal, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks, and we'll do it again.
I'd be happy to. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That is Neal McCready. We're going to grab a break here momentarily, but just kind of to bring it back full circle a little bit to the first segment of the show where we talked about LSU's DBs versus Ole Miss's wide receivers. You heard him there talk about a guy like Trey Harris, who's probably not ready to go. That's, again, Trey Harris has 5 touchdowns on 8 receptions. He had 5 touchdowns on almost 5 quarters of play. They're likely going to be without him. The depth at tight end is sketchy, y'all. Michael Trigg has been kicked off the team. Another guy out with a collarbone. Prescorn is back from an injury, played his first game. That's sketchy. He's a big target on the outside for them. Now, the positive there is, for Ole Miss, I should say, the positive is Zachary Franklin, who played 60 snaps and was off one of the practice reports running with the first team, set records at his previous stop at UTSA. That's a guy you're going to have to contend with, and he's a big body, and he's elite, and that's a struggle. But when you look at the rest of it, LSU has a size advantage in the secondary this week, and up front, you should be able to generate a nice pass rush to help them as well. It might not be that glaring this week. Might not. Of course, it could be. LSU could go out there and give up 300 yards passing, and I don't think any of us would bat an eye at it. They just haven't been very good in the back end. But the matchup certainly looks like it favors LSU there, and that hasn't been the case too often this year, and it probably won't be just because you haven't been that strong in that area. But that's a little encouraging for me to hear Neal kind of reaffirm what we talked about at the start of the show. It's something I found intriguing, and again, I think creates for a interesting and challenging task for Matt House, crafting the defense, because you just don't totally know who you're going to see and in what role. Now, they put Trey Harris down on the field in the red zone. You better cover him because, again, 5 touchdowns on 8 receptions. That's absurd. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. Paul and I, we're going to give you our what to watch for the football weekend. Matt will have to make his up at some point. He's not here today, but we know one of them will be the Iowa offense. Paul and I will give you our what to watch for the football weekend on the other side. It's Thursday AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Musso filling in for Moscona.
AFR.
Brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. I love sharing Google reviews with you. And it's easy because they've got more than double the amount of Google reviews than the next closest competitor. There's thousands of them. Like, just spin the wheel and pick one. This one from David Wynn. Brandon, his technician. Brandon did a great job explaining the issues with my AC unit. He provided options as well as explaining the functions of the different parts of the unit. I would recommend 5-star review from David Wynn. One of the things he said there, which resonates with me, is where David writes that Brandon provided options as well as explaining the issues. You'll always get that. Your technician will, if they recommend some type of service, they will give you a good, better, and best option based on what you want to get done, how much you want to spend, all that sort of stuff. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. 752-0001.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there in the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
We're brought to you by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge, Ambassador Caffrey in Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com, theantiagingclinics.com. You want to look and feel like your younger self, they can help. at the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. You know, I would often say a simple blood test can let you know if you're a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. But so often that blood test is so much more than just that. For example, maybe they'll find elevated cholesterol levels or something else that could be an indicator of a bigger problem. Not to say that happens often, but if it does, like, you want to find those things so you can be properly treated. And sometimes medical grade supplements are a great way to do that. For me, fish oils, Coratin, some other medical grade supplements are great for me as I had some naturally elevated cholesterol levels that we've helped get in check. Maybe it's hormone replacement therapy, help you feel like your younger self again. Learn more online at theantiagingclinics.com.
All right, back here on a Thursday edition of AFR. Musso filling in for Moscona. Football weekend gets underway tonight. You got the Packers and the Lions up in Green Bay. Personally, after the Packers came back, well, you know what? I really can't even fault the Packers. The Saints blew that game, but I still want the Packers to lose after that. So we're going to be rooting for Dan Campbell and the Lions. And plus, y'all know this is a big Dan Campbell show. We love Dan Campbell on AFR. Play a lot of his sound bites just because we can. And I want to see the Lions continue to roll here. So hopefully they'll get that done. But that's not the only thing we're going to be watching. Paulie and I are going to give you the rest of our what to watch right now.
Here's what we're watching this football weekend.
Paul, do you want to start?
I can.
Well, yeah. You start. I normally start. So let's let you start this time.
All right. So I'm going to be watching Coach Prime, the USC Trojans and the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah, but as we established, it's really a bison that's their on-field mascot, a female bison that's their on-field mascot because buffalo don't exist in North America.
Yeah, they're weird. Obviously, all right. So this is the biggest game for Colorado on their schedule this season. I'm more interested to see how Coach Prime bounces back. I don't expect them to win the game, but they got beat down by Oregon. So I'm more interested to see how Coach Prime, how Shedeur Sanders respond from just terrible game a week ago.
Yeah, it wasn't. And you're right, beat down. I mean, Shiloh Sanders also taken to the hospital after that game. So it's it was a rough one for the Buffaloes there in Eugene. Sticking with college football for me, Paul, I'm gonna go with A&M again. Had him in this last week, but obviously, look, Connor Wegman out for the year. Max Johnson gonna get the start. Want to see how Max does, particularly after what happened when he came into the game last week. It sparked Texas A&M's offense. It was one of my college football takeaways that I thought he needed to start, just to be quite honest with you. They were bogged down. They weren't great offensively against Miami with Wegman on the road. They weren't good against Auburn. And start that game, he goes down with injury. You don't wish it happened that way, obviously. You get Max Johnson in there. He starts lighting it up, leads them on back-to-back touchdown drives. Is that the spark they need? Offense, Petrino, Jimbo, it's all you've heard about in College Station. You're still hearing about it now. Is Max Johnson the remedy when they face Arkansas? That's what I want to see, or what I'll be watching this week. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. My bad.
I'm going to jump to the NFL, and I'm watching probably the biggest matchup of the day. It's the Dolphins and the Bills, the top two favorites to win the division coming into the season. The Dolphins have looked like the best team in the NFL through 3 weeks, but the Bills have won 9 out of the last 10 games against Miami.
Oof.
Is this the week in the year that Miami can take control of the AFC East?
What do you think?
I think I like the Bills in this one.
Okay. All right. Going with the home team. It's interesting, man, because you wonder if it's actually like a little bit of a letdown spot for Miami, where, I mean, they put up 70. They're not going to put up 70 again, but they've been talked about so much. You wonder if the Bills, like a team like the Bills, with what you just said, your record against them could really be a letdown, but it is interesting. Speaking of letdown. Oh, wait, the swoosh. Speaking of letdown, it's weird when you're not at the controls over there. Notre Dame, they have no time to sulk after losing to Ohio State. They get up off the mat. They are right back in the spotlight. This time, Durham, North Carolina facing Duke. Yeah, that's right. In football, this is the spotlight. Game day is going to be there, so it's the second straight week Notre Dame's going to be featured on game day. It's going to be a raucous environment. It's the first time ever game day is going to Durham. And let me tell you, y'all, Riley Leonard is real. Like that, he is good. He is very good. Duke is good. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Duke has a shot to win the ACC. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Duke's going to the playoff or any of that. I'm not even going to tell you that Duke's a football school. But Duke is for real enough that they command everybody's attention in the ACC this year. I want to see if they have Notre Dame's.
We shall see. So I'm watching Sunday Night Football, Chiefs and Jets. Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers. Oh, wait.
No. Yep.
Aaron Rodgers, he's not playing. Zach Wilson is going to start again, reluctantly. Joe Namath even came out earlier this week and says he's seen enough and
Joe
wants
Namath
to
was
move
pissed. Joe Namath was so mad.
on. You think he can suit up? Do better than Zach Wilson?
I wouldn't recommend that. No. I mean, yeah, that's probably not safe. How old is Joe Namath?
I probably won't be paying much attention to the game. How about we pay attention to the Taylor Swift effect?
Ah, Lord.
We need to get Jimmy Lott on the line. How many? What's the odds? Over under? How many times is Taylor Swift shown on TV / mentioned in the broadcast?
20.
I take the over.
I
on that
mean,
one.
yeah, probably. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're right. We do need Otter for that. Yeah, Paul. Look, you said that the biggest matchup of the week was the Bills versus the Dolphins. The biggest matchup of the week is actually Taylor Swift versus all of our social media feeds for the second week in a row.
Exactly.
I mean, it's going to be crazy. Also, Joe Namath is 80. I think he's done. I don't think he's got any more. He's just armchair quarterback now.
I don't know. You can't do much worse than Zach Wilson is right now.
Joe Namath was pissed. Like, he was mad. Last one for me. I'll go to the NFL for my last one here. And Pat's Cowboys. This one's going to be interesting. How does Dallas get off the mat after losing to Arizona? Kind of something similar to what we talked about with Miami, right? Where, everyone was talking about Dallas. They're the best team in the NFL. They go lay an egg in Arizona. It's a little different for Miami going to Buffalo. I understand. But, for the premise here. They get off the mat. They welcome in New England. New England hadn't been great, obviously, 1-2, but it's a homecoming for Zeke. That's something entertaining to watch. There's been all the talk about the Patriots interrogating former Cowboys players that are on their team for secrets about Dallas this week. All of that wrapped into one. How does Dallas react? Homecoming for Zeke. I think it could be a very, very interesting game there in the afternoon window on Fox. That is our what to watch for the football weekend coming up. Again, at least Paul and ours. Scone will get his to you at some point when he's back tomorrow, or I don't know, maybe he'll tweet it out or something. But we'll get him caught up there. We need to grab a break. Come back on the other side. We'll wrap up the hour how we do every single day. That, of course, with Tigers in the Pros. That's going to be on the other side here. Thursday edition of AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Stay here.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Pluckers, Nicholson, and Bluebonnet. Dine in or carry out 28 flavors of award-winning jumbo chicken wings, ice-cold draft beer, full-service bar, sports on TV. My goodness, there's something going on at Pluckers every night of the week. What more could you possibly want? How about sandwiches? Well, they've got those. What about salads? Pluckers actually has really underrated salads. Giant, gorgeous, fresh salads. You can actually eat healthy at Pluckers. Or you could just binge. Award-winning jumbo chicken wings tossed in your favorite sauce. You want to create your own menu item? Do it. They encourage the creativity. Great sides as well, like the cheese fries, the El Guapo dip, maybe the homemade blue cheese potato chips, holy macaroni, fried pickles. They got it all at Pluckers. Nicholson, just south of campus. Bluebonnet, right in front of the Mall of Louisiana. The best place to watch the game, which game? Any game, is at Pluckers, because you can eat wings, drink beer, and watch sports on TV. Remember, at Pluckers, if you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Relentless reporting gets results.
I'm never going to stop until we get the answers you need.
Uncovering more as the powerful try to cover things up.
What happens in the dark will always come to light.
Founding new principles and practices for the state of Louisiana.
Chief Investigative Reporter Chris Nakamoto.
Chris Nakamoto and the Investigative Unit. Recipients of Columbia University's prestigious DuPont Award.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
All right, we are wrapping up hour number 2 on a Thursday here. After further review, Musso sitting in for Moscona. Gonna wrap it up with Tigers and the Pros here momentarily as I find my last item for that. Okay, we're good. Let's do Tigers and the Pros.
Tigers and the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now. Presented by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, where Baton Rouge gets engaged.
All right, missed this yesterday. We're going to bring it back here today. Hat tip to Paulie for pointing this out. Brad Wing back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh signing Wing to their practice squad. Now 32 years old. Of course, punted for the Steelers in the 2014 season, and now back with them. He did lose his job the previous year, but that report comes from Tom Pelissero. The Steelers and Brad Wing reunited as the former Tiger on the practice squad up in Pittsburgh. Let's get to some baseball action, shall we? Let's go to Minnesota from last night. Andrew Stevenson, of course, told y'all he's back with the big club. Was inserted late in a tied game as a pinch runner. Trevor Larnach drove him in. Stevenson scores the go-ahead and eventual winning run there for Minnesota in that ball game. In today's ball game, they had a little bit of a little matinee action. He unfortunately did not see time, but look, man, he's going to go to the playoffs on the big club for another playoff run. Pretty awesome to see for Andrew Stevenson. Of course, already a World Series champion there with the Washington Nationals. DJ LeMahieu yesterday for the New York Yankees, 1 for 4 was DJ at the top of that order. It was a single, was his hit, walked in the game, and also came around to score in that ball game as well. The Yankees shut out the Blue Jays 6-2. Alex Bregman yesterday for the Astros in a win they needed to have. 1 for 3 in the ball game, a single for Bregman. He would come around to score in the game as well. He also drew 2 walks in the ball game. Minor league action. I think we wrapped that up yesterday. I'm a little flustered. This is terrible. I apologize. We did. We wrapped that up yesterday. No minor league action. Thursday night football tonight. There are no LSU players in the game for either team. You should watch anyway. But the Lions and Packers, they should probably sign some LSU guys. Could help the case. That's Tigers and the Pros. It's brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Looking to pop the question, go to Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. That's where you need to get the engagement ring. Don't go anywhere else. Gift in the little red box. It says it all as well at Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Appreciate them bringing you Tigers and the Pros every single day here on After Further Review. All right, that's just about going to do it here for hour number 2 of the show. Got a jam-packed hour 3 coming up for you, though, as well. Mike Triplett, obviously, talk Saints and Bucks. Actually, we're just going to talk really a lot about the Saints because it's an interesting day with that where you could really lead that interview off with 3 different topics, but you have to pick one. So, we'll talk a lot about that and a lot about the Saints specifically, maybe less about the matchup with the Bucks with Mike Triplett in the next hour. And then also I want to talk about LSU's run game. So we started the show talking about the DBs versus Ole Miss's passing game, but the LSU's run game, man, it's made a lot of improvement. I want to show you some different ways that it's made a lot of improvement. That's going to come up next here in hour number 2. Sports Center coming up on the other side. It's AFR. Stick around.
AFR.
I'd love to be able to tell you every day about Mold Zero because seemingly every day I get a message from one of you. From someone who will message me, will tweet me or email me or hit me on Facebook Messenger or something. Hey, Matt, what's the mold company you always talk about? Well, it's Mold Zero. Mold-0USA.com. Mold-ZEROUSA.com. If you have mold or think you might, maybe you have an odor in a building you just can't get rid of. One of their clients, Jim told me the story. They had a client who had a rental home, a rental property, and this rental property just had this odor. They couldn't, no matter what they did, cleaning, anything, could not get rid of this odor. Mold Zero went in, sprayed, boom. That day, odor gone. Mold Zero. Mold-0USA.com. They're patented, non-toxic dry fog treatment. Go to the website, learn more, request a quote. It's Mold Zero. Online, mold-0USA.com.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade, time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me, like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
I'm Doug Brown. NFL Week 4 kicks off tonight in the NFC North. The Packers host the Lions in a battle for first place. Both teams 2-1. The Packers today put offensive lineman David Bakhtiari on IR. He's still battling a left knee injury. He'll miss at least 4 more games. The Jets will host the Chiefs Sunday night at the Meadowlands. Can quarterback Zach Wilson turn his season around? ESPN's Dan Orlovsky says the Jets are just being too careful.
They have made him so scared to go play football and to go play quarterback and trust his eyes and trust his instincts that everyone's going, he stinks. No, he doesn't. He's just been controlled in a way where he's scared to throw the ball and he's scared to make mistakes.
Dan Orlovsky on Get Up. In the American League East, the Orioles can wrap up the division title with a win over the Red Sox at Camden Yards tonight. The Texas Rangers can clinch a playoff spot with a win tonight against the Mariners in Seattle. The Diamondbacks could have clinched a spot with a win against the White Sox and some help, but they lost in Chicago today 3-1.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios.
That's right.
Hour number 3 of After Further Review here on a Thursday, September the 28th. Musso filling in for Moscona. One more hour to go. Jacob Beck, Paul O'Neill along for the ride, and happy to have all of you with us as well. You're just tuning in. Yes, I am in for Moscona today. He is out. He will be back tomorrow. We'll send you off into the football weekend as we normally do, right? Riot Radio Hour, Phil Steele previewing the biggest games. All the fanfare that comes along with Football Friday of AFR, including Matt back in the chair. That is tomorrow. But for now, one more hour here. As I said, we've had a great show. We got a few more things left to get to. I want to talk about the LSU run game here momentarily to kick off the hour, but remind you, of course, Mike Triplett, New Orleans.football. He'll stop by in his weekly spot. Next segment, we'll talk plenty about the New Orleans Saints as they prepare for their matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Get you a quick preview of Thursday Night Football and, of course, Otter Locks with Jimmy Ott to wrap up the show in his normal spot. So let's get right to it, finish this thing out in style, and I want to talk about the LSU run game because I think it's fascinating. And I want to approach it from the angle of, kind of where they were to where they've gone, and the one thing I still want to see them do now that we're 4 weeks into the college football season. So, obviously, look, we all remember what the storyline was around the LSU running back room going into the year. You got so many guys. How do you divvy up the touches? Is it truly by committee? Is it truly rotation? Do you want one guy to kind of stand out and take that next step? If so, who is it going to be? That was the narrative going in all offseason into this year, heading into that first game against Florida State. You had the pieces back on the offensive line. It set up great for LSU to have a dominant running game to where you didn't need Jaden Daniels to carry that much of the load. Well, we kind of know how it happened, right? Logan Diggs is out for that first game. You struggle against that front from Florida State. You don't really get anything going. Daniels ends up as your leading rusher, but ultimately it's just not productive. And the one thing that really stood out was at the goal line. You couldn't punch it in. You got down in the red zone and you couldn't punch it in if you were LSU in the run game. What has happened since then, I think is pretty well documented. But let's get into a little bit of it anyway. Logan Diggs has emerged as the guy that everybody kind of thought he would be. You've since got John Emery back. You've seen some Caleb Williams, and things have started to improve. Let's start first, obviously, with the red zone, because I think that was one of the first noticeable areas, really, where it was like, okay, there. I want to leave the Grambling game kind of out of this, and I want to do it with this disclaimer. I hate being that guy, and I do my best to not be that guy because I don't like that guy. I don't like the guy that looks at a large sample and says, yeah, but if you take this out, like, oh, he was just use running backs and rushing for an example, right? Oh, he had 150 yards in the game and 2 touchdowns, but 80 of that came on one play. So if you take that out, yeah, but you can't take it out because it happened. We all saw it, and it's part of it. I don't like that guy, so I don't like to be that guy. But I don't really want to include the Grambling thing in this because that game was what it was. LSU was just vastly superior everywhere, and they scored on 10 straight possessions. But you did, in that game, for sake of leaving it in there, you did see LSU impose their will on the goal line, running the football in. Caleb Jackson comes to mind. Josh Williams got a touch there and did that, and you saw it. But again, that's Grambling. I don't want to focus too much on that. I think you really started to see it later in that Mississippi State game. And that was really, really encouraging, especially with how that game started. We all remember the first drive, right? They go down. They can't punch it in running. They look like they're going to go for it on 4th down. You have the false start by Will Campbell, back shot, kick the field goal. After that, LSU found themselves down in the red zone running the football. Josh Williams was the first to benefit from it. It was the next time they got in the red zone because you had the long throw to Malik Neighbors, the 26-yarder right outside, technically, of the red zone. And then on 4th down, the 33-yarder to Malik Neighbors. That got you some of your touchdowns. But it was the next drive. The next time LSU had the ball, they got down in the red zone. They got to the Mississippi State 18. And from there, they ran it 5 straight times and muscled it into the end zone behind Josh Williams. And that was really the first time all year in a meaningful game on the road against an SEC opponent, that, again, wasn't the Grambling game, that you said, okay, wait a minute, they might have something there. And later in that game, Jaden Daniels was able to find the end zone on the ground, running the football in the red zone a couple times, actually, and that's encouraging to see. Why was that encouraging to see? Well, because you remember in the Florida State game, there were a few misreads there with Daniels in the running game. If we're being honest, that probably really wasn't a concern. I think we all saw how good he was in that aspect of the game last year, that, okay, he was going to figure that out. Really, more the concerning thing was, why did that happen? But that's in the past. That's not really the point of this conversation. They started to figure that out. Then you really start to see Logan Diggs emerge as well. You saw it in that Grambling game, but you saw him again kind of follow that up with another nice effort at Mississippi State, and then obviously what happened against Arkansas this past week, where he rushes for 97 yards, really down the stretch in that ball game, is able to tote the rock, carry the load for LSU, which, again, is important. When I look at running back by committee, and I'm for it, like I'm not against that approach at all. I am just of the mind that you have to have your guy. You have to have your bell cow. You can be committee, but you have to have your bell cow. You have to have Spencer Ware and Michael Ford be the bell cow in 2011. You have to have Hester be the bell cow in 2007. You have to have Jeremy Hill be the bell cow. You have to have those guys be the bell cow. Even when you had Fournette, Geis, and Darrell Williams, Leonard Fournette, when healthy, was the bell cow. When he wasn't, Darius Geis became the bell cow. You have to have that guy that you know you're going to at the end of the game. It looks like Logan Diggs has become that. LSU has become a much more run-heavy team to the left, a much more left-handed running team, and that goes back to the Florida State game as well, where they tried to run right in that game. They just couldn't do it. So they started moving more towards the left, and now it's left middle. Very rarely do you see them go to the right, and there's plenty of reasons why that could be. Look, I think the right side of your line's actually gotten a lot better than it was in that first game. When you take that alignment that you have of Emory Jones at right tackle and Miles Frazier at right guard, they've gotten better together than they were in that first game. But when you have the rotation there, when you're bringing in Lance Hurd at tackle and kicking Emory in, it stands to reason that you might be a little bit more to your more consistent, more consistent in chemistry-wise, I should say, side, and then also running behind Charles Turner. That has helped out tremendously, along with the emergence of Logan Diggs. I love the emergence of Caleb Jackson, even though we all want to see more from him, and they're a little bit reluctant at this point maybe to do that, wanting him to learn more of the game, which is totally understandable. I think he could come in handy in the phase that we're about to talk about, which is the one more thing I want to see from the LSU running game. But above all else, perhaps this is finally the answer to Jaden Daniels not being your leading rusher. Last year, in 2022, out of the 14 games you played, Jaden Daniels was your leading rusher in 8 of them. More than half. Right now, through the first 4, it's been half. He's been your leading rusher in 2 games. So that plays into what I'm about to talk about, the last thing I want to see. But part of it is Jaden Daniels going forward not being the leading rusher. Because we know the guy ain't going to slide. I'm all for him taking off, running the ball. I'm off the design runs. I love that dynamic in LSU's offense. You don't want to take that away from him. But if you can minimize hits on him in any possible way, and him not being your leading rusher is one of those ways, I'm also way 100% for that. 110%, 150, however much percent you want. Yeah, I'm for that. You want to keep him healthy. I think he's proven as well through the first 4 weeks of the season how valuable he is with his arm. So that's part of this. But you saw LSU struggle in the running game, in the red zone. You've seen that improve. You've seen somebody in Logan Diggs emerge as the bell cow. So to take pressure off of Jaden Daniels potentially. So what is that last thing I want to see from the LSU running game? And I think this is a great opportunity for them to do it this week, or be in a position to do it this week, by the way, as well. The last thing I want to see from the LSU run game, to where I'm fully and supremely confident in them, is can they salt the game away? When you're up 7, 10 points, late in the game, you get the ball back off of a punt or a turnover or whatever, can you bleed the clock with the running game and salt it away? When they know you're going to run it, you know you're going to run it. Can you do it? You have the offensive line to do it. It looks like you have the stable of backs now to do it, along with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Can you do it? We got a glimpse of it against Arkansas. A glimpse. But it was really the drive before their last one that made it, before they kicked the field goal with Ramos, the drive that they took the 31-24 lead. You saw a lot of Logan Diggs. He really carried them down the field. And that gives me encouragement that they can. But when you went back to that last drive, they're not trying to salt the game away. They're neither of them they were. They were trying to go score and win. So the first play of the last drive was a deep out to Malik Neighbors that carried you far down the field, and then Diggs had the 21-yard run. But can you salt the game away? This is a spot this week where LSU conceivably could be up 7 late in that ball game, get the ball back on the road, needing to finish it. Can they do it with the run game? That is the one thing I think we still haven't seen. And you have Logan Diggs. You have a guy like Caleb Jackson, where fresh legs, you could bring him in off the bench, give him a few touches against potentially a tired defense in that second half, late in the game against Ole Miss, and have that. And of course, you still have the veteran presence of a guy like Josh Williams. And oh, by the way, John Emery's there too. We went through this entire segment without mentioning John Emery, who might be your best big play guy still, where you can just give him the ball 3-4 times in a game, but one of those times it's going to go for 7. So you've seen the room develop now through the first 4 weeks. Can they take that next step? Can they salt the game away? That's really the last thing I want to see, and I think this is a great opportunity that we see it this weekend in Oxford against the Rebels. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. Mike Triplett, New Orleans Football. He'll be with us in his weekly spot. We'll talk Saints-Bucs on the other side of AFR here on a Thursday, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Say it every day. Rouse's, this feels like home. Hey, look, Rouse's, since the time they first opened as a produce stand 100 years ago, they've been helping you make groceries as Rouse's Markets for 60 years now. I love the family story of Rouse's. They've continued to grow with 60 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach, Alabama, and points in between. I always encourage you, download that Rouse's app. Download the Rouse's app. Remember, they got delivery and curbside pickup options. The curbside pickup, your personal shopper that we talk about, it's easy. Download the app, select your items. Your personal shopper will go do the work for you. You pull up in one of the designated spaces. They'll bring it out to your car. If your order is more than $35, no charge for the service. And if your order is more than $100, use the code SAINTS20, SAINTS20, and they'll take $20 off your order. It's at Rouse's. This feels like home.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Darin. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there in the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Mike!
Yeah?
Saints coverage with some Mad Libs mixed in.
Why don't you just go by Mike?
It's time to talk black and gold with Mike Triplett of New Orleans Football, presented by Benny's Car Wash, family owned and operated since 1951.
Saints and Bucks, noon in the Dome on Sunday. Mike Triplett, New Orleans Football, joins us in his weekly spot, helps break it all down, talk some black and gold. Mike, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Everyone seems to always joke that there's never a shortage of storylines with the New Orleans Saints, and it couldn't be more true than right now, because I look at this and I'm like, there's about 3 different ways I could start this interview, whether it's Derek Carr, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's Alvin Kamara coming back, which actually seems to fly under the radar. But we're going to go with Derek Carr. Did not practice.
And you didn't even get to Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans.
That's true.
Usually the free space on the Saints-Bucks bingo card.
That's just you sit down at the table, you cover that one up, and you wait for them to draw the rest of the numbers. Man, that's true. Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans, 4 different places we could begin, Mike. Let's start with Derek Carr. A DNP on the injury report, I should say, again today. But was there anything different? Was it the exact same as yesterday? Was he able to do anything today?
Yeah, I mean, he was tossing the ball gently, like he was catching the ball when they threw it back, and then he would toss it to someone else. I mean, he's not immobilizing the shoulder. He's walking around. He's talking with his hands out there on the field. I mean, it's not one of those things where we're going to, put a boot on it until Saturday and then test it for the first time. So I guess that's a good sign. But, I mean, I really genuinely believe, not just because I believe everything they say, but also based on the history of other people who have dealt with these injuries, that everything they're saying is kind of the deal. It's not a major risk of re-injury, but he has to be able to function with it. And I talked to Drew Brees earlier this week, and he did play just 1 week after having a grade 1 level injury of this type. But he said that week he did not throw a single pass all week in practice. He said it was actually the only week in his entire career where he didn't throw once in practice before he played on game day. So there's really nothing you can do to test it unless you're shooting the guy up and taping the guy up and trying to mimic a game situation. Otherwise, I think you're just trying to let it rest all week and then deciding, do you feel like you can go through it? I don't know how you make that decision. I'm still erring toward that. I don't think he'll play, but I'm certainly not ruling it out.
Okay, so that was kind of going to be my next question, right? Because it's something I touched on a little bit earlier. I think everyone kind of just automatically assumes, it's Jameis. Jameis is taking all the reps. They brought in Lutton on the practice squad as an extra quarterback, all those kinds of things. But, I mean, they let Jameis go out there and play with a broken back last year. If Derek Carr says he can go, I mean, is that an area? Is that something they literally consider? Like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and you look at Derek Carr's history, and he listed him off. I mean, he did not miss a game with a broken pinky in his throwing hand a couple years ago. He missed only 1 game with transverse fracture in his back. He did not miss a game when he tore his groin. He is one of those guys who wants to go at all costs if he can. And it's interesting that you mentioned Jameis, because Jameis is one of those guys too. And I talked to him later in the year when obviously things weren't going the way he hoped and he didn't get his starting back job from Andy Dalton. And he admitted, I probably should not have played at Tampa. I wanted to play with my broken back, and then he tears a ligament in his foot, and then he plays another week too. These guys want to play, so sometimes somebody has to make a decision that overrules a quarterback's desire to play. So it's never an easy decision. But then again, with Brees, when he played that week I was just talking about, he went out and he threw 5 touchdown passes in Pittsburgh. So every case is different. It really is.
One thing that complicates this one a little bit more might be putting him back behind the offensive line. So I want to talk about the offensive line. Mike, are you surprised they're struggling this much?
Very surprised. Look, maybe we overrated these guys. If you go through them individually, James Hurst is another year older after he kind of overachieved the last couple of years, and he moved from left tackle to left guard. Trevor Penning is still very raw. Cesar Ruiz, finally had his best year last year, but then he had the broken foot and missed a lot of the offseason. I mean, I guess it's not a huge surprise that those guys are struggling. I'm a little more surprised to see Ryan Ramczyk and Eric McCoy battle inconsistencies, but I mean, these guys, I thought our big concern with these guys was health, and they were healthy the entire offseason. They worked with each other every day in practice for 5 straight weeks. I really expected that group to be a strength, and it has not been. It's been by far the biggest problem on this team.
So if it's not health, and I mean, outside of Cesar Ruiz's concussion, it hasn't been. I mean, is there something that you think you can pinpoint as to why a veteran group has struggled outside of pinning a veteran group?
Yeah, and they're all losing. They're all taking turns losing. And you know, from what we've seen watching tape and from talking with players, James Hurst said today, he genuinely was like, I really can't think of one big mistake that's been a communication error. It has just been guys getting beat one-on-one by the defensive player. And it was Trevor Penning, obviously a lot in that first game, but it's been Hurst, it's been Eric McCoy, it's been Cesar Ruiz a couple times, and it was Ryan Ramczyk 2 times in this last game. They've all taken turns getting beat, and they're getting beat even when they're bringing in 6th and 7th guys to help. It's really pretty startling.
Yeah, when they brought in Landon Young as a 7th offensive lineman and gave up the sack. I mean, that was kind of the low point, I feel like, at that moment. It's like, oh, Lord. Okay, so that kind of brings me to Kamara now, because I think normally I feel like this return would have been met with great fanfare, but it doesn't really feel like that. And this is a spot where, I mean, he's not coming off injury. He's coming off suspension, so he should be in shape. He should be explosive. He should be ready to go. What type of impact can he have, though, in his return with the struggles up front?
Yeah, I think he's important for this offense if it becomes the offense it wants to be. They are very excited about using him in space more. They're very excited about using him in the passing game more. A couple of those plays where Chris Olave caught passes out of the backfield, those were Alvin Kamara plays in week 1. But I don't think he will be a big part of this offense if it starts to look like what it's supposed to look like. He can't fix this problem. Like, if he was the guy running, I wrote this earlier this week. I went and looked it up. They had 13 the offensive line is struggling in the run game too. They had 13 first down runs in this last game, and on 9 of them they gained 1 yard or less. I mean, Alvin Kamara can't turn nothing into something. I mean, he's great in open field. He can make guys miss, but he can't just run into a line that creates no holes either. And then I'm a little concerned with, I'm sure it's going to be a big priority for Jameis Winston to get the ball to Alvin Kamara in the passing game, but that was our number one concern last year when Jameis was the starter, was that hasn't been a strength of his, is throwing to running backs in rhythm. So, it's going to be tough if Jameis Winston is the quarterback for that to be a big part of this offense. So he can only help because they need 5-yard gains. They need 7-yard gains. They need it to be 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 2 every once in a while instead of 3rd and 10 all the time. So certainly he can help with quick passes and just getting some guys in space a little bit, but he's not a magic elixir for the particular struggles they've been having.
Talking with Mike Triplett, New Orleans Football. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Mike, with Jameis Winston there in that vein, yesterday when Dennis Allen met with the media, he was asked if they considered Taysom Hill as an option, and he said flatly no. Is that surprising at all, given the struggles up front?
Yeah, I would think that would be – I think it would have to be and should be a consideration if Carr was definitely going to miss 3 or 4 weeks or longer. But I think it makes even more sense to just go with Jameis under the current circumstances, because even this week, I mean, like we just said, they're leaving open the possibility that on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, they decide Derek Carr is ready to go. Certainly by next week, that'll be the case, that it could be Carr. And, if you fully install a Taysom Hill game plan, I think that's so different than what it would be for either Jameis Winston or Derek Carr, that if it's just 1 week and if it might even be 0 weeks, then I think it makes a lot more sense to install the exact same game plan and just have Jameis run.
A couple more offensively here. When you look at them in total on offense, red zone struggles, run game struggles, pass game struggles, the offensive line, low point total. Now, injuries. It kind of feels crazy to ask, but Mike, do you feel like they're getting close?
I think the receivers, I love the playmakers. Unfortunately, it's felt like desperation every time they throw to Chris Olave and Mike Thomas and Rashid Shaheed instead of rhythm. but those guys are delivering every time. So if you have 3 receivers like that, you've got a chance to be special. Alvin Kamara does give you a chance to be special. Kendry Miller is now healthy, and I think he can be special. So I like Jawan Johnson. I haven't untapped him yet. Jimmy Graham, we saw him catch his first touchdown. There's just so many options in this offense. And I like Derek Carr to be the one who can get the ball to those options. I think they just got to fix one thing. They got to fix the offensive line. And look, that can be through play calling too. I'm stunned that we haven't already seen them revert to just being one of these quick passing teams that's 3-step drop and throw on every down. I think we're really close to seeing that for this team. But I mean, obviously it's been a huge problem, and it's much easier said than done to just say fix the offensive line. But I think if they get that one thing fixed, there's still a ton of potential in this offense.
So that was actually going to be where I was going next was play calling, because I was going to ask how much of the blame for this should fall on Pete Carmichael.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a two-part question. He definitely has not fixed the problem. He hasn't gotten them out of the problem. He hasn't adjusted well enough to the problem. I mean, he needs to give his offensive line more help, and he needs to call plays that don't require the offensive line to hold him back, and he needs to do a better job of keeping his team out of 3rd and 10 situations. But at the same time, I'm sure he has great game plans and great creative plays and great things he wants to do that they just haven't been able to get to, because, when it's 2nd and 10 and when it's 3rd and 9, your play sheet stinks. And Derek Carr's standing back there, and when it's 3rd and 9, you need 5 seconds for passing routes to develop, and he's getting 2 seconds. And it's just like, for the same reason that we haven't been able to fairly judge Derek Carr, I don't think we've been able to fairly judge what this offense wants to be. But he definitely deserves some blame for not, adjusting well enough to the problems they're having.
Mike Triplett, New Orleans Football on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Mike, I guess I should ask at least one about the actual game with Tampa Bay. Matchup to watch in that one?
Well, I mean, it is Marshawn versus Mike Evans, and it's not just Marshawn versus Mike Evans, because that's always the matchup to watch. Will the Tampa Bay figure out some way to get Marshawn ejected again? Because then they can finally score a touchdown whenever he leaves the field. If that wasn't orchestrated, it should have been last time, because it was brilliant. But it's also a big matchup, because that is the one thing that's working for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. They're not a great football team top to bottom, but Mike Evans is playing as well as he ever has, and Baker Mayfield has figured out, I'm just going to keep getting the ball to Mike Evans and let him try to win games. So not only is that a fun matchup because of the history, but it should be the matchup for any defense facing them right now is try to slow down what Mike Evans is doing, and obviously nobody does that better in the NFL than Marshawn.
That's very true. Y'all get over to NewOrleans.football, get subscribed up. If you haven't already, you can read Mike's stuff there. And, of course, Nick and Brooke, they do great stuff as well. Mike with us here every Thursday on AFR. Appreciate the time as always, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Saints and Bucks in the Dome, noon on Sunday. Of course, give you final thoughts and a pick on that. Matt will tomorrow on AFR. We are going to grab a break, come back on the other side. Brian Kelly should be taking the podium right about now. Get you some updates from that. Also, a brief preview, Lions and Packers. Otterlock still to come as well. Thursday's AFR continuing on here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
AFR.
Brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Y'all, fall has fallen upon us, and I could not be more excited. Football is here. A little bit of a chill in the air. I mean, it's 84 degrees. That's chilly compared to 110, which is what it was like 6 weeks ago. It's time to get by Clegg's Nursery. It's time to get your hands in the dirt. It's time to just plant something. They got beautiful fall bedding plants. You want all those gorgeous fall colors, the earth tones, the oranges and the browns and the dark greens. They got it for you over at Clegg's Nursery. New shipment of those fall decorations coming in this week as well. So pumpkins and hay bales and squash and gourds and scarecrows and corn stalks. You want to decorate your front porch, your back patio, your office, any place, indoors, outdoors. Clegg's has all of the fall decor for you at 4 great locations. For more than 60 years, our friends at Clegg's have been helping our community. And, of course, our partner with True Value Hardware Store. Buy local, shop local at Clegg's Nursery.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. a family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Darin. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 9.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
Remind you about Michelli Weighing and Measurement, Michelli.com with 30 offices across 11 different states. If you weigh or measure something, Michelli sells, services, rents the products used to weigh and measure. No matter where you are, you can ship your precision measurement devices to Michelli, and they'll calibrate them for you, send them back, or they'll just come to your office, pick them up, and bring them back. They can also do on-site calibration. If you have equipment that can't leave or you don't want it to leave, they can come do on-site calibrations as well with their mobile calibration labs. It's Michelli Weighing and Measurement, online at Michelli.com. Louisiana-born, Louisiana-owned and operated for 76 years. They've continued to grow, expand their footprint while maintaining that local ownership, local feel, handshake deals, face-to-face sales. It's Michelli Weighing and Measurement. They're also hiring. Check out the careers tab at Michelli.com. Again, online at Michelli.com, Michelli.com.
All right, we're back here on AFR, Thursday edition of the show. Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Musso filling in for Moscona. Scone back tomorrow. A couple different things I want to get to here in this segment before we hand it off to Otterlocks and then send you off into your Thursday evening. Brian Kelly, looking for some updates there from his press conference. Not really seen anything on Twitter yet. He might be a little late to the podium. So, with that in mind, let's take a quick closer look at tonight's Thursday night football matchup, Lions and Packers. Detroit 2-1 on the year. They're visiting Green Bay, also 2-1 on the year. Short week for the Packers, which is interesting. Short week for both, but which is always interesting, more for the team that travels in Detroit. I will say this: sole possession of the NFC North up for grabs here. I get it. It's it's week 4, but get that early lead there potentially is great. And look, who can forget the game last year? I mean, Detroit goes into Lambeau end of the year, last week of the season, wins it. They were fighting for a playoff spot there, and they end up getting that W. So that was awesome. They'll make the trip back there tonight. It's a 2-point favorite. That's surprising to me that Green Bay at home on a short week is an underdog. Aaron Jones coming back is obviously huge. Again, some loose lips there in Packers media availability out of the locker room this week definitely hinted that he's ready to go. So that would obviously be huge as well with Christian Watkins. I think what's obviously of paramount here, Jordan Love's going to play well. Jordan Love, I'll at least say this. Like, the last frame of reference that I, and probably many of you had of Jordan Love, was Utah State's trip to Baton Rouge in 2019. Is that fair? I mean, after that, he got drafted and sat behind Aaron Rodgers. You only saw him in the preseason, and I'll be honest, hand in the air, I'm not watching a bunch of Packers preseason. Saw him when they played the Saints. So I guess maybe that would be the last real frame of reference, but it's preseason. How much can you really glean from that? Jordan Love has looked very, very good. Now, the Saints had him in a tizzy for 3 quarters, but he found it. And when he found it, he turned it on. I expect him to play very well again tonight. So Jared Goff is going to have to continue to play the way he has played early in this season. That was obviously a huge question mark, right? The Rams kick him to the curb. He goes to Detroit last year. You start to see it kind of come along. Could he carry that over? So far, he has. Jared Goff's been pretty darn good so far early in this year. He's going to have to be very good for Detroit tonight on the road because I think Jordan Love's going to bring it. So Aaron Jones coming back, obviously huge. Christian Watkins, that's only going to help Jordan Love, you would think. I'm very interested to hear Otter's take on this next because Detroit being the favorite is odd to me. I would have assumed Green Bay at home, get it. And look, the Lions, huge win against the Chiefs. They've been awesome. When we did our preseason NFL picks here, Paul, I think you picked the Lions, didn't you? You were the only one out of us that did, though. And I had said, man, I like them. Again, love me some Dan Campbell. Big Dan Campbell guy. But thought they were maybe a year away. They have looked anything but, quite honestly, early in this season. So announced their presence with authority on opening night with the victory over the Chiefs. You could say whatever you want about players being out and all that. I don't care. It's the NFL. They went on the road and won in the defending champion's house on ring and banner night. That's big. When they were, nobody thought they would. I mean, they were the underdog. Nobody thought they'd win that game, even with those players out. So, look, that's huge there. But there are a couple injuries. I mean, like C.J. Gardner, C.D. Deuce. I mean, he's on IR. Like an offensive lineman on IR. So, for them to be the favorite, that's interesting with me. I'm curious to hear what Otter has to say because at least just my gut, I'm really side with the Packers there. But look, we'll see. So that gets underway 7:15 Thursday Night Football. Green Bay hosting Detroit, and revenge on the mind of the Packers and the early control of the NFC North up for grabs after the Vikings, who I think many picked to win that division preseason, have started 0-3 and have looked real bad. I guess it's kind of hard to look good when starting 0-3, but the Vikings have looked real bad in their 0-3 start. All right, get you some updates from Brian Kelly's press conference here, but first, Matt, on Relief Windows.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. When we talk about Relief Windows every day, I always say windows, doors, siding. And now shutters as well. They do your indoor shutters. Same thing as the windows. Custom made, measured to fit your windows, custom fit for your windows, lifetime warranty on your windows, your shutters. But Brandon, you often hear say their number one product is customer satisfaction. And that's not just a catchy line. That's not a cliche phrase. Have an experience with Relief Windows and you'll understand. They go to the ends of the earth to make sure their customers are thrilled with the work they do. As a matter of fact, Relief Windows never takes $1 from you. You will not, no deposit, no down payment. They take all the risk. They will not take $1 until you're thrilled with the work they do. Who else does that? Only Relief Windows. Check them out online at reliefwindows.com.
All right. Well, I don't think Brian Kelly's at the podium still. That's disappointing. Thought he'd be there by now. Just not seeing any updates. So, look, we'll have them for you on AFR tomorrow. Obviously, you'll be able to hear from the head coach and whatnot there. So, if anything comes across here in the last few minutes of the show, we'll get it to you for sure. Oh my goodness. Benito Jones for the Lions showed up to the game. Paul, I don't know if you can grab this. Our guy Dov Kleeman has it. Benito Jones showed up to tonight's game in Green Bay. Cowboy hat, overalls, shirtless, nothing underneath, cowboy boots. And these aren't overalls that go all the way down to the leg. They have shorts on them. So you see full leg and cowboy boots. What an absolute unit. Oh, what a look right here. AirPods in. This is strong. I like this. Athletes tend to have a strange style, some of them, when they show up to the game. Cam Newton, very, very vibrant, very flamboyant style, likes to dress to the nines, was very good at it. That's one of Joey B. Joey B, very out there with the style. I can get behind this. I like this from Benito Jones. Just shirtless overalls, cowboy hats, boots, the shorts on the overall. I mean, this is good. This is strong.
It's got to be rough on the skin, though, huh?
I mean, maybe, but look at this guy. I mean, he's a monster.
Fine.
You think he's worried about something being rough on the skin?
Probably not.
He's good, man. The question is there anything else under the overalls?
There's got to be.
There doesn't have to be.
I mean, come on, man.
He could go commando. You don't know.
That's rough.
It'd be a power move if I've ever seen one there, though. But I mean, just a strong look here from Benito Jones. You know what? I think I want to change. I think the Lions are going to win now. I think
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you can't show up to the game dressed like that and lose, or at least you shouldn't. You shouldn't show up to the game dressed like that and lose. All right, let's grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll put a button on this Thursday show, wrap it up with Otter Locks. We'll get Otter's take on Lions Packers for sure. See if he's got a baseball play here tonight as well. And I don't know, maybe I'll ask him about shirtless and overalls and Benito Jones. But that's next. It's Otter Locks to wrap up Thursday edition of AFR. Stick around.
AFR.
Love telling you about ProCharge EV. ProChargeEV.com, electric vehicle chargers for your home or your commercial building. ProChargeEV.com. ProCharge is a local company. They're right here in Baton Rouge. And they're a distributor for NLX, which is actually an Italian company, the #1 electric vehicle charger in the world. So you're dealing with a local company that's also partnered with the #1 EV charging company in the world. It's ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. Go to the website, scroll down. You see the form you can fill out to get more information. But the bottom line is this, y'all. If you own a business, a commercial building, you got to have EV chargers. I told you a story. There's a medical group in town that called ProCharge, and they installed a bunch of EV chargers at their clinic because a handful of their doctors all drive Teslas. So they need EV chargers. Well, here you go. Amenity for your employees, amenity for your customers, a revenue generator. Tap to pay options are available. It's ProCharge. ProChargeEV.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always custom.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and online at theantiagingclinics.com.
It's Otterlocks here momentarily. Quick update from the Ryan Kelly press conference regarding Omar Speights. I had tip Scott Rabelais from The Advocate with this update from Kelly. Omar Speights, 100%. He is 100% and ready to go for Ole Miss this weekend with a caveat. Because obviously coming off that injury, the fast pace of Ole Miss's offense, he will not be able to play the entire game. Brian Kelly did mention that Whit Weeks will still get a lot of playing time in this ball game, which, quite honestly, that's a good thing. I mean, you didn't ever want to lose Omar Speights for any length of time, but in doing so, you've developed a good problem where Whit Weeks has got to still see the field in some capacity. That's going to be something they're going to have to work with going forward, because eventually Omar Speights will be ready to play a full game again once he gets totally back into shape after this injury. But, I mean, man, what you've seen from Whit Weeks for a freshman linebacker, that's about as good as it's going to get in the SEC, and he's going to need to still see the field at some point this year, at some point this year for LSU and at times, and he will get lots of playing time this week. But Omar Speights, 100%, and will play against Ole Miss in Oxford this Saturday. All right, Thursday night football tonight. Let's get ourselves a play. It's time for Otterlocks.
Otterlocks, presented by Lofton Staffing Services. At Lofton, we put people to work. Call us today at 924-0200 or go to lofton.jobs.
Otter, good evening. How are you?
What's up, Musso? How are you?
I'm doing good, Otter. It's been a good show, man. We've covered a lot today.
There you go. Love a little self-proclaimed.
There you go. Yeah, man. Feels good sometimes, right?
Where's Matt?
Matt is at a Guns N' Roses concert in Houston, Texas at Minute Maid Park.
Oh, my goodness. So is Stockwell. That's 2 peas in a pod there. So,
yeah, look. Hey, it's good. It's good to be Matt Moscona sometimes. I guess you can just pack up and head off to Houston for a concert in the middle of the week. I mean,
there you go.
I can't relate. Thursday night football. Otter, is Detroit's a 2-point favorite in this game?
Yes. Yeah, we're on Green Bay tonight, so it's a road favorite Thursday night, and man, Detroit is just turned into this public team. It only strengthened that when they were able to kind of, I thought we were very fortunate to win that opening night game on Thursday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. Geno Smith went up and down the field on them. Next week, they did take care of business against Atlanta last week, but just a little bit too much Detroit love, affecting the lines, inflating them just a little bit. So going to take two. Also going to open up a teaser with Green Bay. In college football tonight, 3 games getting ready to go. Dog.
All right.
So Middle Tennessee State, Temple, and Sam Houston gave out that's the Georgia State money line. So the one money line I like the most tonight is the home dog, and that's Sam Houston State against Rich Rod at Jacksonville State, plus 230 at DraftKings right now.
All right. So, and you're taking Temple as well, or Middle Tennessee? And
Middle Tennessee State plus the points, Temple plus the points, and Sam Houston plus the points.
Okay. No baseball tonight, just football?
No baseball. Orioles, they started a little early tonight.
1 minute remaining.
We missed on them. So staying away from should be a good one. Seattle and Texas tonight. Going to be a close one, so we're staying away from that one. But no baseball tonight.
You and Hanny, Rufino's tomorrow?
Hour early, 10 a.m. Football Friday, Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tech Sports and Edward Jones Investments. You know it.
Y'all tune in to Otter and Hanny live at lunch. Hour early tomorrow for Lock of the Week Friday. Otter, we appreciate it as always. Thanks.
All right, Moose.
All right, so Otter there, giving you the Packers, plus the 2 is the home dog. Thought so, man. That felt like the wrong team favored there. I mean, Green Bay at home, it's a short week. You can go with the road team. I don't know. And then the 3 dogs in college football. Sam Houston said he likes the money line in that one as well. All right, that's going to do it for us here today. Matt is back tomorrow. We'll have the regular Football Friday, Phil Steele, Riot Radio Hours, guest picker, all of that. Thanks for joining us. Be here tomorrow.
AFR.
I'll remind you about South Point Volkswagen. Honest to goodness, true story. I was bringing Drew to school today. Going down I-10 here in Baton Rouge. I-10 west toward Essen. And coming up behind me on the on-ramp off of Bluebonnet, right behind me, was a Volkswagen ID4, the all-electric ID4. They got them on the lot. So if you've ever thought about an EV, if you want to drive an EV, how about $7,500 bonus right now on an ID4? You can check it out at South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland or southpointvw.com. If you want to check out all the different features, if you want to look for the color and all the different amenities, features that the vehicle you're looking for comes with, you can find it. If it's on the lot, it's online at southpointvw.com. And because they move more inventory than anybody else, they can give you the best deals. South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland. South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction?
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Darin. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.